Network.
Good evening, welcome everyone, and good afternoon or good morning, or if you're watching this on another day, happy Sunday or happy Saturday, whenever it is that you're watching. Thank you for coming along and tuning in, whether you're live or whether you're watching on catch up. We are super grateful to have you on board, and if you haven't already, yes, that stuff, do hit the likes, the subscribes, do all of that shit. So get that out of the way now. And I guarantee you we've got a good show, so you can hit like now in all in all confidence. It won't be a what's the word I'm looking for? I'm rambling. I'm going to shut up. Anyway, we've got a great guest for you this week. Before we meet him, I'm going to go round the room and get my fellow co-hosts on and to get me out of this mess that my mouth is dropping me into. It's been a really tough day today work-wise, and I'm like so rushed and indigestion and all that stuff, but I won't bore you. Cryss, help me, mate.
Hey, great to see everybody.
You know, too.
Been really looking forward to having Tim on, and how do you know when somebody's written a good song is it like just stays in your head? And
I know, right?
I'm having some like serious flashbacks because I remember when this when the Republica album came out in, I think it was 96, that one. And man, I couldn't get those songs out of my head. They were always there. And so like the last couple of weeks, although I got to be careful because when you're walking around the supermarket, you don't want to be like, I know my ex-boyfriend lied. He does it every time. And, so I'm trying to keep it in the inner voice.
Yeah.
But really been looking forward to today.
Indeed. Good to have you. Everything well in your world?
Yes, very good over here.
Good. Solar, is she okay?
She's
always
doing
have to
all
ask.
right.
Good.
Mama came home early and she's snuggling with Mama.
Lovely stuff. Well, send her our love. Mama too. Let's move up to the north of England, where we find our founder, Mr. Ben Simpson, in his very, very dark and moody brooding studio there in northern England near Manchester.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Well, you were saying you were busy. I've literally, before I came on this camera, just walked through the door. It's like,
you win.
I just switched everything on and sat down. So.
Excellent. Well, glad you could make it.
Yeah.
Been a busy week for you, gigging?
Yeah, we did some great gigs last week, and
do you do bad ones then?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, we haven't with this band. I don't think. I think a couple of the first few that we did were a bit ropey, but then it's steadily improved, and it feels okay at the minute. Feels a bit safer than it did at first.
Good stuff. Well, some nice pictures going up of you and the lads. So some nice little videos going around. Good to see. It's good to see live music back as well.
Nice one.
Good stuff. Well, as I said, we have a great guest for everyone this week, as we always tend to do, and we keep that bar pretty high. Although I think Tim was a little bit nervous after coming on after the great Mick McNeil last week, which is a real treat, I have to say. But I think you have nothing to worry about. Let's welcome Tim Dorney. Welcome.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Very well.
Do we find you? Is this your home studio?
This is, yes, my little facility.
Yes.
In Windsor.
Oh, very nice. And
yes.
do you do? Is that where you kind of like do much of your work there, or do you?
I do it all from here.
Oh, everything, right? Cool.
Yeah, it's all done here now these days. Everything.
Nice.
I mean, the bands that I work with, it's mostly Dropbox stuff anyway. So they're.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. I'll have them down here to do vocals or guitars and that sort of thing. But on the whole, it's just. I don't need a full studio. Just a 4x3 box is what I've got here.
It's kind of the way of the world these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to let everyone know, we will speak to you in depth in a little while, but you've been around sort of on the music scene for a good maybe 20, 30 years?
Yes, 30 plus years.
Yeah. I mean, I remember Flowered Up and that massive, was it 17-minute long Weekender?
Yes.
Which is a classic tune. And then, of course, after that, and you have to forgive me if my chronology is all that place, was Republica much after that?
Yeah, it was. We started Republica about 93, 94.
Yeah.
But I'd already met Toddy that I started the band with, working with other people while I was still in Flowered Up. Mm-hmm. So we were headed towards Republica by the end of Flowered Up, but it just took a lot longer to get together. And eventually Saffron came along and joined us.
Yeah. And the rest, as they say, is history. You're still touring.
Pop history.
Indeed, you're still touring with Republica as well.
Yeah,
which is fantastic.
They're coming to the end of this season. We mostly just do festivals these days. So 2 to 5,000 people.
Nice.
We're doing Shine On next weekend.
Oh yeah.
At Butlins in Minehead.
Lovely.
It should be fun. We did have another one in Edinburgh, but that's been cancelled the week after.
That's a shame.
Can't help that.
And other bands had actually been involved. Tin Gun's another one.
Tin Gun, we've got a new EP coming out towards the end of the month.
Super.
EMT, I'm just starting to work on their next album again. Well, Tony sent me some songs, I haven't listened to them yet.
Oh, lovely. And of course, Tony's a part of our group as well, so I'm sure Tony's watching. Hi, Tony.
Good evening, Tony.
And so I mean, and you're producing and you're performing and you're kind of keeping yourself busy. How's the last couple of years been?
Yeah, just trying to find as much time as I can to get in the studios. I'm sure you guys have the same problem. We've all earned a crust. Quite. And it's an expensive hobby, so you've got to finance it somehow. So it's gone really well. I think the lockdown was pretty kind to me, and good. People kept sending me things to do, and I sort of learnt the dark arts of mastering while I was locked down.
Oh, nice! It's always good to learn something new.
Yeah, that helped.
Fantastic. Oh, let's just go forwards up here. So, hello everyone, welcome, and let's of course say hello to everyone that has joined us live in the chat room. I'm not going to go through all the names. There's far too many of you, but you're all very, very welcome. Let's just get the housekeeping stuff out of the way. So if you want to make sure you do this, subscribe and hit that bell. That's really helpful, so please do, and then you'll just get notified of every time we go live, which is 7 p.m. UK time around the world. And of course, can I also say apologies to our US brethren, or should I say North American brethren, because I think it involves Canadians too, and everyone on that kind of side of the world. We in the UK, I don't know whether we go early or you go late, but daylight savings time kicked in last weekend for us. It's kicking in this weekend. Am I right, Chris?
I have no idea.
I don't understand it at all.
I'm pretty sure. I googled it and it said the 7th of November. So fingers crossed. Things.
I wait till my iPhone tells me that it's coming. Oh yeah, it's on Sunday. It looks like.
There you go. It's like that now. I mean, nowadays everything changes automatically, doesn't it? Even the car changes automatically, and you don't need to worry about most of the stuff. But I apologise to our North American friends and viewers, because we are on an hour later because of the fact that we've gone back an hour. So next week it'll all be back to normal, and it'll be 7 p.m. UK, 8 p.m. in Central Europe, and then 2 p.m. East Coast, 11 a.m. West. So we'll be back to normal until March, and we do it all again, unless somebody decides to stop this whole daylight saving stuff, because I don't think it's really worth doing anymore. It was done for farming originally, and now I think the last excuse that people have is, oh, well, our kids come home in the dark. Well, they will do anyway at some point. So, whatever.
But, the ridiculous thing is that in California, we in a rare moment of wisdom, voted to begin the process, which, of course, as it ends up in California, just ends up being, we voted to have our politicians start talking about it, which means nothing.
Exactly. So it could be a while yet. Indeed. Well, anyway, that's that. So thanks for hanging on an extra hour, everyone in America, and we'll be finishing an hour later. But thanks for hanging around. and everything will be back to normal next week, so we won't have to worry about it. But again, if you make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, then you'll be notified when the show starts, whatever the time is, wherever you are in the world. If you fancy donating to us, we absolutely love it if you could. You're not obliged to. This show is completely free to watch. But your donations help keep us on the air, because all of this that you see, all this jiggery pokery, does cost a little bit of cash. And thanks to all of our viewers and donators who have given us money over the last, 18 months, we've been able to pay for this year. We've got next year covered, and then hopefully with a little bit extra we can do some cool funky stuff as time progresses. So any donations, and of course you don't have to just click on that link there, which will take you to our PayPal donation site. You can, if you want, do a super chat or a super sticker in YouTube. I'm sure somebody will show you how to do that if you want to, and those are gratefully received. And after all the companies take their cut, we get a little bit in the pot, and that will help to keep us going. If you also want to follow us on all the social media channels, it's at ProSynth Network on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course here on YouTube. And I think that's pretty much everything done. We can get on with the show. What we're going to do, as per usual, we are going to discuss some news topics of the week that have happened. There's been some interesting ones. We've all had a bit of time to swat up on certain. I haven't done all of them, I have to admit. There was one or two that I didn't have time. But hopefully enough of us have done it, and some of us have actually downloaded and installed the software, Ben.
Yeah.
Good. So we'll be able to hopefully speak from a position of some authority. And we'll do some of those. We'll talk to Tim about his career and what he's doing now, what he's done in the past, and all about that lovely stuff, including, and I can never remember how to pronounce, is it the 400F, the TS, is it Tiesco?
The SX400.
The SX400, that's it.
That one there, yeah.
There it is, yeah.
We got that one, and then we got the, hold on.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Roving camera.
The 110 as well.
Oh,
yeah.
You're a bit of a fan of them?
I love them.
Is
I
it Tesco?
absolutely love it. Tesco.
Tesco, right.
Tesco.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Tesco, isn't it?
It is a little.
I'm going to make that mistake a few times. And for those that don't live in the UK, Tesco is a well-known supermarket chain. Other chains do exist, and we're not sponsored by them. But of course, if they want to bung us a few quid, we're happy to do that. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we'll be talking to Tim in detail about all the stuff that he does, and of course, I'll be asking him about how angry he got about the vinyl reissue of the Republica album, which
they're at it again as well.
Oh no! All right, well, we'll get the inside on that one a little bit later. But let's kick off with some news topics first of all. I want to kick off with some of the meaty ones first. So we've been talking about the Rhodes reissue, the Mk.8 reissue, for some while now, and finally. We've got something to look at, we've got something to order, and of course we've got something to pay for, and here it is. This is the Rhodes Mk.8, designed by our guest a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Axel Hartman. He did all of this design that you see here, and it does look really chuffing nice. I think he's done a fantastic job of retaining that that Rhodes quality, but bringing it into like the 21st century. So the website is up. You can access the website if you've signed up for the newsletter, because you get a code to access it. So if you can't access all of the lovely images that you're seeing right here, just sign up for their newsletter. So just go to rhodesmusic.com, and they'll send you one newsletter a week just to keep you up to date. But you also get the VIP code that allows you to go in and have a look. And of course, if you are muddied up to the hilt, you can buy one, because they're not cheap, but with good reason, I suspect. It's a lovely, lovely, lovely thing. You can customize it in many different colors, so the lid's different colors. You can even have a translucent smoked version. You can have different types of wood. You can have different color stands. The effects panel is optional, although I can see a lot of people thinking, well, if you're going to spend what it costs to buy one of these, then the extra $750 for the effects is probably neither here nor there. There are some great audio demos, but it sounds like a Rhodes. There's just no question about it. Wonderfully, wonderfully built, and of course the question on everyone's lips was, how much is this going to be? So let's break this news if you haven't heard already. it ain't cheap. It's £6,795 UK pounds just for the base model in the base colours without the effects. Then you can, of course, go in, and Ben and I were comparing notes today. We've all been going in and configuring. Have you been doing the same, Tim?
Yep, $9,000 I got to.
Yeah, I got to 50 quid off of 10 for my one. Because I think I have a thing about orange. So there you go. I went for the orange thing. Yeah. And then I think for the bottom shell, I chose the, is it the walnut? Yeah, the walnut there. So that adds another 795. Mm-hmm. And then the front panel, I kind of like black, so I did that. And
that's looking nasty, that.
I don't care. This is mine. Well, it's not essentially, but
it's awful.
So then the effects go in, and the preamp panel's already coloured. So now you can choose the colour of the stand. You can have a black and white stand if you want. Although there's an option there for keyboard, but they're just white keys. But I do wonder, maybe because there's an option, maybe at some point they'll be offering reverse keyboard or something. I don't know.
That would be great.
That would be rather cool. And then you can go for the black stand or the silver stand, and you add that in, and they will then take the price of the stand off if you pay in full. So if you pay in full, you get the stand thrown in for nothing. So that's 375 quid off there and then. So yeah, I think I must have done something else, because I got to like 9,950 or something like that. But there you go. So this is the Rhodes Mk.8. It's here. It's expensive. It's not going to be to everyone's pocket. But let's go to our guest first. Are you a Rhodes aficionado? Is this something that you would love, or do you prefer to get your Rhodes sounds other ways?
I prefer to get my Rhodes sounds other ways. It's just it's a one-trick pony for me.
Yeah.
I didn't really like them for a number of years, and I've sort of come to appreciate them really over the past 5-10 years, I think. But I just did not like them. I preferred a piano back in the day.
Yeah,
my house upbringing, I should think, more than anything else.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, so you won't be. One of these won't be squeezing into the studio. Then.
Absolutely not that I've got the room, but no, absolutely not. And I mean, you can still buy a second-hand decent Mark IV for like $3,000 or something, can't you? I don't see why it's quite so expensive.
Yeah, well, it's been the debate, hasn't it? The last week or so, that why is it so expensive? And fingers crossed, I'm actually talking with Dan at Rhodes Music, and I'm hopefully going to get him and one of the other guys onto the show before the end of the year, and then we can ask them outright. They're definitely coming on. We just need to agree a date, so we'll let everyone know about that. But I think at the end of the day, they're only making 500 a year, so they've committed to 500 for 2022. It's a limited thing. I mean, when you see some of the images, it does look incredibly well built. And I know this is probably a prototype we're looking at, but it's probably as good as the ones that are going to stick out. So I guess, it's craftsmanship, limited run. These are true mechanical instruments. I was having this conversation with Kent Spong earlier this week, and it's a proper instrument. From every nut and bolt. It's just a wonderful feat of mechanical engineering. I'm not here to justify their prices. It is what it is, and I'm sure that they'll sell all 500. But
I'm sure they'll end up in collectors' hands. Like you said. Yeah. I can't see them ending up in studios that much. I think.
No, well, unless they're expensive big studios. Maybe Trevor Horn will buy one or so on. But you never know. The other thing is that these are they're limited runs, but if they sell all 500. And let's say they average out at, say, I don't know, $8,000 a piece. So what are we talking about there? That's almost $500,000, isn't it? It's about 400,000, something like that. Let's just conservatively estimate that they sell all 500 and they get £500,000. Then they can maybe invest in doing a more affordable version. A portable version, the suitcase version, whatever. Maybe that's something to look forward to. I don't know, guys. Benjamin, sat there stroking your beard.
Yeah,
you must be thinking deeply about contemplating.
Contemplating. Yes. Should I sell?
Yeah. What are you going to sell to buy one of these? And would you?
It'd have to be my van that I've only just. That's why. That's why I'm late tonight, because I've only just bought it, but I'm already thinking about selling it. No. I'm a bit like Tim with this. I think it's a one-trick pony. It only does one thing, but it does it really well. And it is a true instrument. I think there'd be a real connection between you and the machine, and I think if you had one, you would love it.
Yeah.
And I think that Axel's done an absolute superb job of the design. Because of the mechanics of the thing, it's got to be kind of ugly. You know, it's got to have that high back but the lines that he's put into it and that, it takes all that away. You know it's there, but it's just got this streamlined thing about it. I wondered about the effects myself when I was configuring mine. I thought, like, would you know, but then again, it's when you summed it up perfectly, Robbie, really. It was like, you're going to spend that much, what's 750 quid? You might as well have it as an option.
I think if you're a Rhodes player, effects are part of of a Rhodes player's rig. So are you going to have a bunch of guitar pedals, or can you through digital effects technology now have a really handy set of effects there on board? It's one less thing to worry about, isn't it?
I just imagine
analog.
Oh, are they? I thought they were digital. I might be mistaken. Analog. Oh well, I will take it all
Bucket
back.
Brigade chorus and stuff like that.
That's even better then.
Yeah. I think for 750 quid, in relation to the price of the actual instrument, it's worth getting that on.
Yeah.
So I think it is.
Yeah,
probably
exactly.
add a lot to it. I think the way that they've marketed this from day one, really, when the rumours that there was something coming, and just the little leak stories, and then we finally get to this moment where we can look at it, and then they have they've taken from the car industry the configurator idea, which I love. I just think that's the way forward. You should be able to configure anything that you buy, really.
But then, isn't that also one of the reasons why it's probably a little bit expensive?
It's an expense thing, isn't it?
Nothing will be necessarily quite off the shelf, will it?
No, I know. And there's quite a lot of options, so the amount of combinations, you couldn't have them stocked up, ready to go. No way.
Yeah.
That smoke glass top thing, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
I had to go with the red option in obviously, because I've got to, but I would love that smoke glass one. I'm pointing up there because it's on my screen here.
Yeah, but we know that.
Yeah. I love it. I don't think I will ever own one, just because I can't justify that amount of money. But it's great. Yeah, and for those that can afford it, enjoy it.
I think the target market is players that play Rhodes for a living, or collectors, I guess. But for the likes of us that dabble in synthesizers, we can, if we want that sound, we can get that sound a lot easier and a lot cheaper. And it is a one-trick pony. There's no MIDI out on this. A lot of people have said, "Oh, I wish it had MIDI out, because then at least you could use it as a controller." But I think you start messing around with that kind of classic design and start putting other things in to go wrong. I don't know. So I don't think anybody that wants this would be too sad that it doesn't have MIDI on, because you don't go into a violin shop and ask for a violin and say, "Oh, hasn't it got MIDI?" No, So although there are such things, I think. But anyway, before I come to Cryss, I just want to say thank you to Sasquatch. We don't have a DX klaxon. Maybe that's something we should do. I'll need to speak to Dom to figure out how to get a klaxon going, because he does all those fancy script things, and I'm no good with that. But thank you, sir, for that. It's much appreciated. Now, of course, the original Rhodes is an American invention. It was invented just after the Second World War as a kind of teaching instrument, so it's a massive American tradition. These are now being built in Leeds in the UK, which is probably the most unlikely place that you would expect such a classical musical instrument to be made. So, Cryss, how do you feel about this American icon now becoming a British icon?
That's fine. I mean, we've had a lot of companies go back and forth. I mean, we have we had the Jaguars for a while, then we had the Jaguars, and I think we're back to Jaguar again. I can't remember.
Yes, quite. But, and there was the whole Moog thing as well, wasn't it? Moog came over to Wales, of all places. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I tell you, this Rhodes is really something beautiful, and of course with those Alex Hartman lines on it. Oh man. And then when you go, those first picks were great, but then when you go and customize it, and I'm with you with the orange top on it, was just amazing. Maybe sparkle, if they got that at some point, would be.
There is a silver sparkle. There's a silver sparkle.
Oh yeah. And who doesn't want to have one of those Rhodes to put your other synthesizer on top of? It's just that the unfortunate thing is that as expensive as this is, the stand for it would be more expensive. But yeah, what a classic and wonderful instrument. I'm with you guys. Like I would spend the money and like I held off buying a car, and I'm still like keeping my old one going just so I could get a Moog 1, and I would be all for that if I felt like I could get everything out of the instrument that it deserves, and I would love to have a Rhodes, but yeah, I'm afraid I won't be able to get one of these. But boy, are they gorgeous, and I think that it's a classic. The look of it too. I mean, that's really a tough, because the Rhodes is a very classic design. But again, Axel has done such a great job on the design of it that it really looks like that kind of combination of 70s but meets the future in a way. And some of those Rhodes, like those green classroom models, very much had kind of a retro modern look in themselves, even back in the day. If you guys have ever seen a picture of one of those, so somebody's going to be enjoying. One of these.
I can't wait now to see a video demo, because we do have some audio demos. Let's see if I can bring. Oh, I've lost the screen. Where have I done with that? Here we go. There was one or two classic kind of Rhodes things on, especially with the effects. Let's see if this one comes up. Hopefully I've shared the audio. You hearing that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's got a really it's just such a lovely warm sound. But then when you start sticking it through effects, it gets really gnarly. What's this other one here? I think this is... Or is it this one? I can't remember now. Yeah. This is that kind of chorusy kind of... It's just lovely. And then, there's a whole bunch of these demos on there. And this is the Mk.8 prototype that we're hearing. Yeah. I mean, that almost sounds like a synth. Yeah, it's lovely stuff, and it bloody ought to be for that price. But hey, there you go. So look, we've got it. It is, and it's coming next year. So if you want to put your order in, you can now go to the Rhodes website and sign up and put in your pre-order. 500 only this year. So I'm pretty damn certain they will sell every single one of those, and there'll be a demand, there'll be a waiting list, I'm sure. So there you go. Lovely. That's the Rhodes Mk.8. Let's move on to another piece of classic music technology that has come back from the dead, I tell you. And this one has caused almost as much controversy in terms of its cost, but you know what, again, this I think is completely justified. This is the news that Dave Rossum, through his company Rossum Electro Music, has brought back the SP1200, the classic original EMU sampling rhythm machine. I don't want to call it a drum machine because it was much more than that. It was that kind of their answer in a way to the MPC. It was around that sort of time, and it did things in a very different way, and it found a huge following in the hip-hop community, as many of these kinds of instruments do. But it did give everything a certain je ne sais quoi. Something in the sound was just lovely, and it was the way that it did, the stuff that it did, and the way that people used it to get around the limitations. For example, playing a record in at 78 RPM and then pitching it down to the correct speed to get as much of the sample time used. And if you haven't already, Alex Ball, as ever, does fantastic videos. We're going to be talking about him a little bit later on as well. But he did a brilliant video on this. because he was also comparing it to the Isla Instrument S2400, which of course is based on this and does a whole bunch more than this. But anyway, Dave has announced this. Again, this is, I don't know how limited this is going to be, but it costs a cool $4,000 US. So in UK, that is around £2,900. And I did some mathematics, because I can, well actually I used Google, and I said, what was, because these originally in 1987 were like 2199, I think was the list price for this. So let's say £2,200. £2,200 in today's money is about £6,500, and so it's £2,900. This version. So actually, there's minimal difference, and he's kept very authentic to the configuration, the layout, the performance, the functionality. The PCBs apparently are all pretty much identical. Only a handful of things that he had to kind of skirt around, but most of those weren't to do with the sound. But yeah, here you go, SP1200. Guys, who wants to go first on this one? Don't rush.
I don't know a great deal about it, to be honest. I know the sound, but this new version, I've only got a tiny bit of information about it, you know. I'd like to know what the SD card's for. What can you do with that?
Storage.
Yeah, it's in the storage where the discs, where the floppies were originally, weren't they?
That's right, yeah. So it's just replaced the floppy drive, but you can obviously store a lot more on it in terms of samples.
Yeah. Sounds good, that.
Yeah.
But the internal memory is the same as the original, is it?
I believe, yeah. I mean, he's trying to keep it.
I think it's twice the size. I think
okay.
I was reading earlier. There's at least twice as much memory internally in it that they can
but it's still 12-bit. It's still sampling at those very odd sample rates that made it, just gave it that kind of sound. Was it like 29 point something kilohertz? Rather than what everyone else was doing at 1112 or 1144, whatever. So yeah, it has a very unique way of doing these things, and they've kept it as original as possible.
It has these filter things as well, doesn't it? It has filter outs and non-filter outs, and
that's right. So yeah, you could, if it just, let's see if we can zoom in on the back of this here. So at the top, this top row here, these first 6 are filtered outputs, and then this bottom row are unfiltered outputs, and then you've got there's 2 extra of those. You've got monitor, sample inputs, and mix outs. You've got clock and SMPTEs on there as well. Pedal switches, and then full MIDI, and this very customized 12-volt 5-amp power input. So yeah, again, I don't like bespoke power supplies, because if those things get lost. So I'm not too keen on that. But it's the same size, it's the same shape, it's the same look. The only thing that's if you look to this, it's a slightly darker color than the kind of the bluey grey of the original. And it has Rossum in the left-hand corner and not Emu. I mean, I did say originally, I'm going to put my S2400 prospective purchase on hold. But I think looking at it, the S2400 obviously gives you so much more and kind of does everything that this does. You interested in this, Tim?
No, I tend to steer clear of drum machines these days. I don't find they give me the flexibility that I need.
As opposed to a real drummer.
As opposed to a real drummer, or it's just like programming fills and things like that in a TR6S is just no fun. it's just really hard work. So I've got a TR6S sat in front of me now. I'm looking at the damn thing, and I'm just trying the Roland Cloud editor thing for it, because otherwise it's going out the door. But
right,
it's just because there's so much menu diving to get at it.
Yeah.
To get it working, but no. I won't. I mean, I'm not paying $4,000 for a drum machine that's essentially a sampler. I mean, I'll stick a bit crusher on something else and get a similar result. And for my tastes, I'm not going to notice the difference, and it's not worth spending that on it for me.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you say that there is a plugin. We spoke about it a little while ago. Is it Wave Tracing? Do this they call it the SP950, and it emulates the what the 1200 does in terms of the bit conversion and the sample rates. It also does something that's very similar to the Akai, the 950.
There's a couple of things that do that as massive. Not massive. What's the drum machine one I've got? The Native Instruments one. They all have. They all have like sort of MPC playback profiles and that sort of thing for samples. Right. So
am I right? I'm sure I saw somebody somewhere say that some of the current MPCs have SP1200 settings on them as well. So,
the irony of it all,
isn't it? Quite. But I guess if the thing is, these originals are highly sought after. I mean, Dave himself was doing this thing where for $7,500 US. You could give him your original SP1200 and he would service it, overhaul it, make sure it's all super duper, and replace the bits that needed replacing, and then put this big metal plate on the side. It was a signed thing, and it was $7,500 to revamp your SP1200. Wow. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going for this because they want one, and to buy one, an original, is stupidly expensive. So this is actually quite a bargain in some respects. But then others, I suppose, will either go S2400 or MPC, or maybe just a plug-in. And that's the one thing of choice.
I've got a friend who bought the 2400, and he does love it. Yeah, he likes it, but he's very, very hardware hand. He doesn't run C. He doesn't run any software.
Right.
He just runs hardware.
Yeah.
And he loves it, but that just doesn't fit into my workflow. Really.
No.
And I get it with the sound and stuff, but it's very much a hip hop thing. It was like the crunchiness, and it doesn't really apply. For what it gains you, I think it doesn't really apply to many other aspects of the music that I make. Certainly.
Yeah. How about you, Cryss?
Yeah, I'm with Tim on that. The thing that really interests me about this project is actually comes from the video that you posted in our Facebook group.
Oh, yes.
And so it was Rossum talking about why it is so expensive and why they've done what they've done. And I think, and so there's been I've seen some grumblings and some complainings about things, and it is outrageously expensive for what it is, no doubt. Some people that really want that original thing, this is the thing for them. But if you read between the lines, and it's pretty clear about where he's getting at. He's like, starting with, let's do it as exact as possible, as many of the original components as possible. Let's get it just like it was, and then we're just going to sell it for whatever it ends up being. And so there you go. But then throughout that conversation, he's talking about you start with the greatest thing, and then you make something else that can be a little bit reduce in price or add more features to it and make it less original, but maybe increase the functionality of it. And so by doing it that way, you kind of eliminate a lot of the grumbling on the internet, because they've done it. Here it is. This is exactly what the original was, what people want. And then when you come out later with the unit that is, maybe 1,000 or 2 less, it does a whole bunch more, has 10 times the memory or whatever, then everybody's going to be happy because they'll have both something that is super exact and something that kind of takes the idea and moves forward with it. So with reissues, I wish there would be more companies that do that. And there are some that do. I like Fender guitars would be, you can get their really, really exact custom shop copies of, not copies, they're Strats and Tellys and whatnot. Or you can get a modern version of it, or you can get a low price version of it. And there's something for everybody in there. And so I think this is just the beginning. I mean, it is very expensive, but hopefully it gives them some funding to then work on other projects that will go into more people's hands.
Yeah, and he did allude to that in the video, that he said he was definitely going to be, well, not definitely, but he was looking at doing more of this kind of stuff. So maybe there'll be a drumulator or something like that. With
I don't remember him outright saying we're going to make more products, but there was so much that he was hinting at it that was like, this is kind of our outlook. This is where we're going with this. We make this amazing product, and then we'll keep moving forward.
That's it. Yeah, it's such a shame that you can't put the Emu name to it, but for obvious reasons. I mean, that name got bought and then was destroyed by Creative Labs, wasn't it?
politely, yeah.
Indeed, yes. Yeah, I think we all got our fingers burned with that one. But no, I mean, all power to him. He's made this incredible looking instrument, and when you watch the video and you see it next to him, you actually it's flipping huge. You know, for what it is, it's a big box. It could have been done a lot smaller, and maybe that's something that he'll be looking at if these sell well. And again, the more people buy these, I mean, it's interesting. You brought out the Fender comparison, and it's funny, isn't it, that electronic music technology such as synthesizers, drum machines, samplers, etc., don't seem to get as much of an easy ride when it comes to reissues and the price of these things. Because when Fender do one of their kind of classic signature kind of things, those things are not cheap. They're more expensive than one of these sometimes, and yet people say, but it's that. And guitars and other instruments seem to get an easy ride, whereas with us in this world, we seem to think sampler, anybody, you can do that on your phone nowadays, so why are we charging $4,000 for something that can, and when you dig in, you can actually say, well, look, economies of scale and production runs and tooling and all of this stuff, that's all going to add to the price, and limited amounts. But I think music technology, I think the community doesn't cut people like this as much slack as they would in other areas.
Yeah. And the electronics community has really been shortchanged on good reissues. I mean, we had like the Moog, Mini Moog reissue, and that was fantastic, but it's not being made anymore. But I mean, say with a company like Gibson or Fender, I mean, they've been making reissues forever. I mean, when the employees bought out Fender in the 80s, some of the first things they were doing were reissues, and then they've been doing it ever since. So I mean, for almost 40 years they've been doing reissues of 50 Strats,
Yeah.
But in the synth world, it's like pulling teeth to get somebody to do a real reissue. I mean, how many people want Roland to do a Jupiter? But I don't know that'll happen.
But it's funny. I was having a really long conversation with Kent this week, and we were talking about this kind of thing.
Is there such a thing as a short conversation with Kent?
No, there isn't. There isn't. But it's good. I mean, it gets me out doing my day job. But we were having this convo, and basically he said, look, if you want to start playing a cello, and you start young, say you're 8-9 years old, and you want to start playing a cello, the first thing your parents will do, they'll ask you how much are they, and then they look at the prices and they have a heart attack. And when they get up again, they start, well, can we get one, like the cheaper models, the few £100 models, because you can get those, and let's see how good you are, let's see how much you like it, how you enjoy it. But then there is this kind of acceptance that at some point, if you are good and you want to get better and play better, you're going to have to buy a more expensive cello, and that's just kind of accepted. And then, you can spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on, Stradivarius and other makes and that exist. But it's kind of an accepted thing that, at the ground level, you start with the cheap copies, not so much the knockoffs, but those kind of budget versions, and then you work up towards that. And again, with electronic music technology, everybody seems to want the very best for the very least. And maybe that's the Behringer effect, dare we say, the fact that they've maybe devalued the market and the perceived value that you get from something. Everybody seems to expect to get something for £500 these days.
Well, I think maybe the problem is that there's just not enough range of equipment, because like what you're talking about, there's so many ranges of gear that we could be having. We could have some really nice, things like these Rhodes and the Moog 1, things like that, and then we can have little Behringer Model Ds and whatnot. Whereas it's just barely starting to become like that, it seems like, in the synth world. But the guitar world has been full of that. So you're talking about violins, whatever. But I mean, guitars are the excellent example. Like, you can buy a pretty crappy $150 guitar. And get you going, and it's a Strat copy, and it's junk, but it'll get you going. And you can buy a $25,000 Strat by Fender, and everything in between. And they make all the different models where you see them making quite a wide range of models. Where it's like with a synth company. I mean, think of something, maybe the Fender of the synth world. Well, I guess no, this. I guess Fender would be a little bit too big for comparison to Moog, or a lot too big. But Moog, as far as reputation, the classics, Moog and Oberheim and stuff like that, like Fender and Gibson, like the guitar companies are making all this stuff. They've been doing it for ages. But when you go to Moog, you look at their line of stuff; it's not that wide.
Yeah, absolutely. And the bottom line is that if you want an SP1200 sound or an SP1200 experience, you've got options. You can buy a €20 plug-in and use it on in your DAW. You can buy an S2400 for just over £1,000, or you can go the whole hog and go $4,000. And you have choice. And if you really gel with it and you want the premium stuff, well then save up and get one. But yeah.
It's just like some other company. I don't know out about guitars, but it's like Ibanez making a new Strat, isn't it? And charging less than Fender. But some people are still going to want the Fender.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though the Ibanez can actually do more. They don't go.
But I mean, I've got a Behringer TD3 set over here because I just wanted to have that experience. And it's fun, and it's cheap, but it sounds good. But if I had the money, and somebody came up with a really nice example of a TB303, I would seriously consider buying one, because that's what. And here he goes. Watch him here. Look, have a look. Have a look. Of course, he's got one.
It's a decent clone, that, isn't
it? Look at the state of it, though.
Look at that.
Look at the state of that.
That's the real McCoy.
Hasn't got a battery cover. Found in a skip, I believe.
Wow.
You're joking.
Seriously, yeah.
There were stories, weren't there, in the 90s when these things were starting to become popular, people going around car boot sales and yard sales and finding these sorts of things for 20 quid,
There used to be there was a shop in Windsor called Windsor Disco Centre that we used to buy loads of kit from, and it shut down mid-80s, I think.
Yeah.
They were doing dramatics and 303s for £60 each. They had about 5 or 6 of them. We didn't buy one.
See, this time is over. That time is well and truly gone.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
No, I used to go around and try and find, but you used to see letters in Future Music magazine. Oh, I picked up the Jupiter 8 at a car boot sale for 20 quid. And you would like, where's this car boot sale? Let's go. And we never found anything.
A mate of mine, his mum came in. He was sat there on the couch. His mum came in and she said, "Oh, got you this piano at the boot sale," and it was at SH 101, and she paid 15 quid for it. And that was the strange thing about that was they were starting to creep up in value at the time. You'd be paying about, I reckon, you must have been paying about 600 quid, 700 quid for one then. And he got one for 15 quid. Jeez. I bet he probably never even give his mum the money. He got it for house.
I got mine for 120 quid. It was a session fee in 1992.
Oh wow!
Super.
It's bonkers, isn't it? These things, but it happened for a while, and I'm sure there'll be a golden age once more.
And this one actually used to belong to Stephen Tintin Duffy.
No way!
It's got. I don't know if you can see that. It's got Duffy written on the bottom of it.
Wow. I love Stephen Duffy. Oh, that's amazing.
It's got Nova mods in it now.
Oh, right. Yeah. Cool. Excellent. Oh, well, there you go. Anyway, so that's the Rossum SP1200, which is available to pre-order now. It's $3,999 US. So that's about 2,900 UK. But of course, over here we'll have to factor in, tax and shipping and all of that stuff.
Sorry, Robert. Somebody in the chat room asked, and I didn't know the answer, if it was a limited edition. Is it going to be a limited run thing? Or?
Well, there is a limit of 2 per customer, which I think is rather telling in some ways, because you can just imagine. You imagine how many hip hop artists out there, and I don't mean to kind of compartmentalize and pigeonhole the users of the SP1200, but the vast majority are going to be R&B, hip hop, that kind of style. They're going to want to have one for the studio. They'll probably want one for their crib, whatever the kids call these things nowadays. Maybe one for live use. And I just found it odd that they put a limit of 2 per customer, assuming that there would be that much of a demand from individuals. or I don't know. But yeah, it just says limited. It says pre-order for the third lot of reissue units. They will expect to ship by the end of spring next year, and it's a limit of 2 per customer. But it doesn't say, not that I saw, unless somebody else in the chat room can confirm. But yeah, it doesn't say how limited. There must be some kind of limit, because Rossum Electro are not a big manufacturing operation. So yeah, be interesting to see. Anyway, if you want one, it's rossum-electro.com. Follow the links and tell Dave that we sent you, and he might send us one to review.
I don't think the price of it's that bad, really.
I don't think it's terrible, no. But you have options. And
I think if it was American and I'd pay like $4,000 for it, that'd be bad.
Well,
but like here...
Yeah, I know he designs damn good filters, because the Super 6 I've got has got the stereo Rossum filter in it, and that's stunning.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Rossum is an absolute legend. You know, he's up there with the Dave Smiths and the Bob Moogs and Roger Linns and Peter Vogels and all of that crowd. You know, he is one of the.
Well, he's also, as well as the drum machine, he's also putting out the Eurorack modules as well, of all the old emu stuff as well.
Exactly,
so the flock of emus and that sort of.
Oh yes, yeah. So there's, and of course, some people have said, you know, if he's reintroducing the SP1200, are we going to get a reissue of one of these? Because I would definitely be in the market if he reissued.
Would they do the 3?
A 1.
Would they do...
a 1 or a 2? It has to be the 1 or the 2, because the 3.
Yeah.
The Emulator 3 to me is like the Series 3 Fairlight. It's wonderful, it's powerful, but it's just super clean. It's just like 16-bit. So why would I really, want something?
Emulator 2, it would be.
Emulator 2, I think, would be the 1. But even if he did, the first one, I'd be in for that, and I would definitely be considering selling body parts or children to acquire one of those for sure.
How much do you reckon that'd retail at though? Must be $10,000 at least.
Yeah, it's
for the
gotta
sampler.
Be. But who knows? But it'd be great. It would be great to have that stuff, especially if it was backwards compatible. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Anyway, Rossum Electro Music, SP1200. Go and find one of those now. What's the time now? Let's get a quick one in. Let's get everybody's thoughts on this one before we start grilling Tim. This is the news, because we're talking about Fender. See what I did? Segue. I'm very professional. I'm getting the hang of this,
I think that there's a sports term for this, where somebody like throws a ball and the other person does something with the ball and they score a point.
Yep.
Right.
Something like that. This is Fender acquiring Presonus. Now, Presonus aren't just a small company; they're quite a big deal. And Fender have signed a definitive agreement to acquire Presonus Audio Electronics. So Presonus do hardware, software. They are a fairly big player in the market. Lots of people loving their DAW. Is it Studio One? Lots of people using their hardware in both, their home studios and professional environments as well. But guitar companies buying music tech companies doesn't have a good history, shall we say? Gibson. Yeah. So this news has been met with some joy and some trepidation from some corners of the community, because we're not quite sure why they've done it. Why would Fender want this? Is it simply, let's just grow the business organically and reap in all of this stuff? I don't know. What were your thoughts? Let's go to our guitar expert in the room. Chris, what do you think? What do you think of Fender, one of your favoured brands, buying Presonus?
Well, it will be sure a hell of a lot better for them than if Gibson had bought them.
This is true.
Well, so it kind of remains to be seen what they'll do with the software side of things, but they have been working a lot more, a much wider range of products. Fender has done pretty good.
Nope, not so much about that.
I was like, somebody's interrupting me. Oh, wait, it's me. Yeah, I may not be able to...
it's Tim's mic, I think. We're getting some feedback, Tim.
Okay. So they've done pretty well with acquiring other companies and have done good things. Notably, Gretsch, to me, would be one of the companies that they did really good job with, because when they acquired them in 2000, I think it was 2003, they really beefed up everything, made the quality a lot better, of course marketed them, and they've since then acquired some other companies like Jackson Custom Shop and Charvel, and so far everything is doing really well. So if there's somebody that could probably do something good with Presonus, I would think that it is them, and they've got the money and resources to do it.
Yeah.
Will it turn out well? I hope so. It gets tough to know what's going to happen when you get a really big company involved, but given their track record, it seems like, at least with hardware companies, they've done a good job. So
yeah, sure. I've not actually used any Presonus stuff. A lot of people did try and convince me at one point to go the Studio One route, and they said, yeah, it really is. It's like taking over from the likes of Pro Tools in many studios. Tim, are you a Presonus user at all? Have you got any?
I've got a fader port single channel one here.
Yeah.
But that's it. I don't have any of their other stuff. I did get a free version of Studio One with something, but I haven't tried it.
No. And do you have much of an opinion on Fender acquiring a company such as that?
Again, it's the risk. It's the Gibson story all over again, isn't it? And the way Akai went when that was acquired, and
yes,
those sorts of these things historically haven't led to great symbiotic relationships between the companies, shall we say.
Yeah.
It just seems that the quality of the product tends to disappear down the tubes once they get swallowed up.
Well, fingers crossed it won't happen, because I know that a lot of people really do rate what Presonus do, both in software and the hardware world. You don't have Studio One, but you have most DAWs, Ben, but you don't have that one, do you?
No, but I have used it. When with the last band, the singer swore by Studio One, so whenever I was working on stuff around at his, I had to use that, and it was pretty good. It was just that change of DAW nightmare situation where like you want to lower the velocity of a note and you're like smashing the computer up like in frustration because it's so difficult to do. It's not. It's just that you're so set in your ways of how you normally do it. It's just different. Things like that. But it's very capable DAW. And I've had Presonus hardware, and that's been perfect. I've never had a problem with any of the hardware I've had in the past. So, great company. I think in the press release, Fender claimed that it was like the biggest music technology company that there's ever been. I think they're far from that, but they are. Some of the stuff that they've done has been great. Those mixers, that mixing series that they've got, I can't remember, Live is it or something. They're really good. Blancmange had one of them when we did a gig with Blancmange, and they were using that live, just mixing it with the iPad, and it sounded fantastic, So there's no question about the quality of the stuff. It
stays that way.
It's just whether it'd be nice if they branch out now with the backing of Fender, but it's like Tim said, it's so often that like this is the beginning of the end for some of these companies. Yeah. But it'd be nice to see it work out. You've got to wonder why Fender have acquired them. Is it something that they've got, a bigger plans for, 20 years down the line? It's things come together more than what we can imagine now, and it all works out for them.
I think that there are times when companies acquire other companies because they simply want to have their fingers in more pies, but they'll let those companies get on with doing what they do. The company I work for in my day job, we were an independent company. We were bought by a large Swedish conglomerate, but we do what we do in our space, and there's not much interference in that regard. Whereas then other companies buy them because they just want to bring the expertise in. They want to do other things. They're going to kill off the brands. Who knows? Only time will tell, but hopefully it'll be a nice relationship. Hopefully all the people at Presonus will benefit from this, and maybe we'll see some cool things, Fender plugins maybe. Who knows?
So Mike, has said in the chat, Fender said why it's part of their aim to be an end-to-end solution for buyers. And just what I've noticed over the years, I mean, when they got restarted with the employee buyout in the 80s, I mean, they were just making 1 or 2 models of guitar. And then by the time 10 years later in the early 90s, they had, they were branching out a lot of guitar models, straps, accessories, and it just kind of slowly expanded from there. I mean, other guitar companies, but then now they're making pedals and tuning apps for iPhones. And so, yeah, I think it is kind of they wanted people to be able to, because they're a trusted name, they figure people will go to them for everything. Yeah, I don't know what to buy, but I'll buy the Fender version of it. Yeah,
quite. Well, it remains to be seen. Let's see how things go. Fingers crossed that it'll be great for everyone involved, consumers and the companies likewise. Anyway, we'll come back to some news topics. So we've got, what have we got? We've got new release from GForce in association with Alex Ball to talk about. We've got 8DO's project SoundPaint to discuss. There's a new Strymon pedal, and Jim Daneker's got a new release in terms of his BackStage Pass. So we're going to cover those in a little while. But let's concentrate on our guest, Mr. Tim Dorney. I think it would be fair to say most of us will know you from your time with Republica, which was a real big thing. That album was on constantly in my car in the 90s. And still gets a good turnout every now and again here because it is such a kick-ass album. But let's go back. Let's go way back.
Way back.
Let's where did it all start for you in terms of where we find you today, music technology? Did you start off with synthesizers, or were you playing? Yeah. So where did it all start? Tell us, please.
It all started way back in the days of. I started with a VL tone, as you do when you're 15 and get told off by teachers for playing it in the class and that sort of thing.
Sounds familiar.
Doing the da 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 impression.
That and New Life, Depeche Mode, I think was what everyone used to play on it. From that, I got what you can see up behind me, which is my Teisco S60F.
Yep.
Starting my lifelong love of Teiscos. Mm-hmm. That was my 16th birthday. And,
is that the same one?
That is, unfortunately, that's not.
Right.
That very one was stolen from the mock-up.
Oh no!
Oh no!
It's. I'm convinced it was one of the band. It was flowered up, actually.
Oh, right.
I'm convinced one of the bands stole it and sold it, but we never got to the bottom of it. There was a few things went missing that weekend. It was that sort of band.
Yes.
So I had that, and then I started working with the guy who is still one of my musical partners, Johnny Mail, who's the guitarist in Republica. Mm-hmm. And we had a little band called Jennifer, and we used to play the local pubs when we were like 17 and 18. The local arts centre, that sort of thing. And as a result of that, we ended up with a DX9, a dramatics and a chorus pedal, and a couple of guitars, I think.
Yeah.
And so I had that for a while, then got into sampling. I bought a Roland S10.
Oh, right, okay.
Quick discs, the bane of my life.
Oh, yeah.
And again, we used to use all the techniques that you were talking about, the SP1200, of sampling it at 78, so you could get as much of a drum loop in it as you could in its 4 seconds of sampling time.
That's right.
From that, I went on to. I used to go to school with a guy called Andy Witherall, who.
Right.
The disc jockey, who
the legend,
the legend who produced Screamadelica, and who unfortunately left us last year. But
very sad.
I've known him for quite some time, and I started helping him out with the remixes because I knew a bit about the technology, and he was a bit of a studio virgin at the time. So I worked on quite a few of his early ones. Then he gave me the into Flowered Up, who they were looking for a keyboard player, and I volunteered my services.
Of course, you had that massive hit with
Weekender.
Yeah, Weekender, which was like was it 17 minutes long or something?
Yeah, the video's 18.5 minutes long. The song's 13.5 minutes long.
Right. Yeah.
But that's had re-releases this year as well. So.
Yes. Yeah.
Jeff's just had that out a couple of times.
That was a proper baggy classic, wasn't it? That kind of rave scene classic, wasn't it?
It was, very much so. It was definitely a document of the time.
Yeah.
And we worked with Clive Langer on it, who was Madness, Dexys, Bowie, you name it, he's done it. And Clive's a great friend of mine, and he worked his arse off with that. We both did. I ended up with bronchitis by the end of it.
Oh, wow.
After a week in the studio.
Jeez.
No, it was a good time.
So how did you get from there to like, you know, massive chart success with a band, you know, Republica?
Well, while I was still in Flowered Up, Johnny had gone on to do his own thing, a thing called sort of Family Sensation. Later became Sensation, and he was doing an album out in France with Mike Hedges,
right?
Who used to have his lovely EMI TG12345 desk in a very large chateau in northern France.
As one did, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and like the stuff that man had in the studio was incredible. Yeah, like sort of, liberated microphones, ones that they like Neumann, pre-war Neumanns that they'd liberated from the war and things like that. Wow. Loads of stuff from Abbey Road, like the DX1 from there as well. Abbey Road, J37 tape machines.
Wow.
You name it, he had the lot. but working out there, I went out to do some stuff with Johnny and Guy, the guy who was working with at the time. And the engineer was a chap called Andy Todd, who I got on really well with. And Flowered Up was sort of starting to come to an end. We knew we could see the writing was on the wall, so we decided when we got back to England we'd get together and start a project. Originally under the name of the Burger Men, but that soon went by the by. So we got the first song up and running, and needed a singer. We decided. So a friend of a friend was Saffron. So she came down, did some vocals, and we got signed to Deacon on the first single.
Nice.
So the first thing we ever wrote with them was got signed to Deacon.
Excellent.
So 3 years later, we did a lot of touring with Cream and a lot of like club tours and university stuff. To start off with, we were a DAT band. We were like playing a backing track.
Right.
Just playing the odd bit of keyboard over the top and a bit of singing over the top and a lot of dancing.
Because I remember, I think we've had this discussion in private before. I remember when I first saw you guys, it was either the video or on Top of the Pops or something, and you've got Dave Barbarossa on drums. Now, I'm a huge Adam and the Ants fan, particularly, you know, the first incarnation with Dave on the drums. And I've seen him play. He's an absolute hero of mine. But yeah, I was like, oh wow, they've got Dave from Adam and the Ants on drums. So I was instantly in, and then of course, and I do hope she's not watching, but yeah, I think we all had a bit of a crush on Saffron, still do, if I'm honest. But yeah, I mean, it was just like Saffron. I mean, to be honest, I didn't really notice you, but Saffron and Dave, and I was like, I'm into this. And of course, the music was great. Tell us a little bit about, because there is kind of a slightly interesting story. Dave was or wasn't part of the band?
Dave was well, we've never actually had a drummer. And in the same way, we've never actually had a bass player. That's always been machines.
Yeah.
So Dave came on board. Basically, once we started taking off in the States, we made a decision we wanted to become more of a live thing.
Right.
We wanted to make it more of a visual thing. We wanted the drumming side of it brought in as well. We wanted to combine the rock elements with dance music as we saw it.
Yeah.
At that time. So Dave was brought in. Yeah, he stayed for about 1.5 years, but because the first album is all machines anyway, the drums are all MPC.
Right.
But Dave did a great job especially touring the States with Dave Barber, who'd done it many times before.
Yeah,
he's a font of very interesting knowledge.
I bet.
Let me tell you, yeah. But because he'd done Beats International and things like that as well.
Yeah,
so
and of course Bow Wow Wow. And,
yeah,
just an absolute legend, yeah.
Yeah. No, I still see him occasionally.
Oh, good. So that's good.
He's still about once in a while.
Yeah, sure. So Republica, you know, really blew up, and that first album, say, you know, here and in America, I mean, it still gets airplay to this day. It had a reissue on vinyl for the first time this year.
Yes.
Which you didn't get a copy of originally. You had to go out and buy your own copies.
I have got a copy now. Tony Blue bought me a copy.
Oh, lovely.
And someone else bought me. Oh no, I ordered my own one, didn't I? Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So
But have you got
a red and a blue now?
I've got a red and a blue, but they have actually sent across. They've sent some to my old management as well now. So
oh right. Oh, that's good.
I'll be getting. So I have 2 copies soon. I'll give one to my daughter. But we've just heard from them again, and this time they've told us that they're going to be pressing another 1,500 copies on clear vinyl for sale across Europe, because the red and the greens are only done for the UK.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
So,
yeah.
Still
nice.
Out there. Yeah. 25 years later.
But it's. I mean, it's funny because you say it's still out there. I mean, I put it on and it was like this hasn't aged at all. It still has the energy. I mean, that's the music, and it's Saffron's vocal as well. It's just pure energy. It's great fun. Proper sing-along stuff. Cryss was saying earlier. He's got it in his head, and once you've listened to it, it's there for pretty much the rest of the day. It's a great album. You must be really proud of it.
I am. Yeah, no, very much so. It just gets because these days I'm a decorator, so
right.
I paint people's houses and work for builders and that sort of thing. And I tend to downplay it. I don't like, if they ask me what I'm doing at the weekend, I don't tell them I'm going to play to 40,000 people at Penfest or whatever. But occasionally they find out, and then it's like, oh no, here we go. Oh, but you love Absolute Radio, don't you? They play you all the time.
But it was, I mean, tracks like Ready to Go are often used on sports broadcasts sort of thing. So that must be a nice thing to know that the music has stuck and has lasted, and still probably earns you a little bit as well.
Still doing it. We're still getting syncs now for American football, for the Indianapolis whatever. This is for this season. Like a sync came through for that the other day. It's just gone ridiculously well on the number of syncs, the films, the adverts, everything. It's just like it's still rolling along.
Did you ever think when you wrote that song, because it's the question that often gets asked of people who write these things, like Prince with 1999, everyone said, did you write that because you knew in 1999 everyone would play the hell out of it? Did you write a track called Ready to Go with that in? Did it ever enter into your mind that phrase is so common with all sorts of things that it could be used like that?
Well, Johnny wrote most of the lyrics, so he's the one that came in with that. The backing track. I mean, originally it wasn't the Rock Fest. It is that was originally a remix that was done by Ben Gross in Detroit. Right. So our original version was sort of housey piano, 909s.
Right. Yeah.
Still had guitars on it, but it was still much more of an electronic record. But that only got to number 41. So the Americans remixed it. It went to number 1 at American Rock over there and sort of grazed the Billboard Top 40. And then we came back to this country.
Right.
So it had a bit of a convoluted birth, but it got there in the end.
Absolutely. Of course, the rest of the album is fantastic too. So Republica, I mean, again, you have to forgive my lack of accurate information, but it was a fairly short-lived thing in terms of being at the forefront of, because I think the 90s were such a tumultuous period in terms of music, because it started off with acid house and the trancey stuff, and it moved into kind of that blend with the rock stuff, so Happy Mondays and all that kind of stuff. Then became very Britpop and guitar based. And I am speaking here from a British perspective. In America, it was probably slightly different.
It was grunge.
It started off with grunge, man.
Yeah, grunge. Yeah, but grunge kind of in the UK, grunge kind of flew in from left field, and people went for it, but then moved on to something else. It seemed like, it was in some ways very similar to the 80s. There were lots of different styles, but they seem to be more contrived in the 90s than they were before. In the 80s, maybe that's just me and my rose-tinted glasses. But so once Republica had kind of slipped out of the mainstream consciousness of that, what was next for you in terms of music?
Not a lot for a while, actually. We kept Republica. We did a second album, Speed Ballads, that wasn't as good as it could have been. Mm-hmm. Toddy had left, that I'd started the band with before. And he'd come from he used to work at Whitfield Street Studios. He'd worked for Sony's for 9 years, in-house engineering and that sort of thing. So it was a big chunk that went missing from the band. And me and Johnny took on the writing roles, like full time, which we'd done for years anyway. We worked on the previous album together. But we felt a lot of the pressure was on us after the first album. We've been told what was expected of us. The thing was, Deconstruction was being sold to BMG,
right,
and a lot of the figures that have been put in for the sale price of Deconstruction was based around a very successful Republica second album. When that didn't happen, they came down on us like a ton of bricks. We were just dead to them. We're just like, we used to go in there because Decon didn't exist anymore. The two partners who'd run the place were gone. We get nameless, faceless A&R people each time and just go, oh, I didn't even know we had you. You were on my radar. So we lasted until 2000 and then just called it a day. We just couldn't get any. We couldn't get off the label and they wouldn't let us go. So we were stuck. So that was the only way we could get out the contract, was that we suggested that Saffron go solo.
Right.
And we left. So that was what we did.
So, turn of the century. Republica's no more. What was next on the cards?
I sort of hung up my mouse for a while, really. I still had a studio at home, but I wasn't feeling the love at the time. I'd fallen out of love with Cubase as well, which was my main problem.
No, that feeling.
It was just as he went over to OSX, and it was what they called it, SX1 or whatever it was, Cubase SX, and it did not work.
Yeah, where it was for me too.
Cubase VST 532, which I used to love. Inside out, didn't fall over. It was great. Yeah. Then that thing started, and it was just no. So I didn't really do any music for a couple of years. Then me and Johnny started doing the odd little writing project for other people, none of which were very successful. And then 2010 we decided we might as well just start doing some Republica gigs again and write another album. Which only took 17 years. But.
Yeah. So you're back out gigging, and you say you're doing a lot of the festivals, and I see lots of posts coming up, and you guys are, certainly. I'm always kind of like I'm not sure about these festivals, especially with the 80s stuff. It's like, Let's Rock, I think, is one where they just gather a whole bunch of people and they sort of come on for 20 minutes and stuff. Is this the sort of thing that you're doing, but is it more of a 90s centric event?
These tend to be. I mean, we've done a couple for the Let's Rock people. Like, they do Penfest as well. So we've done a couple for them. We did Let's Rock Bristol before. But they tend to stick, them and Rewind both just stick to 80s. They generally don't stray into the 90s.
Yeah.
The 90s, you've got things like Shine On, which is much more indie based rather than sort of pan pop, if you see what I mean, which the Let's Rock lot seem to do. A lot of the ones we seem to do seem to be council funded, local run festivals.
Right.
So we'll be playing, there'll be a couple of headliners like us, and Ash and Space and these sort of people all the time. But then they'll have pretty much local bands on during the day. And there'll be one day things, but they're really enjoyable. We love them.
And you're doing a lot of producing now, so EMT featuring Tony and Emma, you're doing them. Tell us how that came about, and is it just them, or are you producing other bands?
At the moment, I've done 2 albums now with Tony and Emma. I started off, I did a remix for them about 3-4 years ago. I think actually Tony was asking if anybody had a DAT machine or something. That was how I got in contact with him. I said, I've got one lurking around, you're welcome to borrow it. So he came over, asked me to do a remix. I said, we just carried on from there, really. But he's sent me a couple of tracks that they've started writing, I think, for the third album. Oh, look, there they are now.
Yeah, they are.
Hello. But as Tony knows, I don't listen to them until I start working on them. So, I haven't heard them yet, Tony. Sorry. I did some stuff. I beat a band called The Friction, a guy called Lloyd Price. I don't know if you've come across him. He does The Friction, Agency V. He was in Massive Ego, I think they were called, something like that. But I did some mixes for their album, for The Friction, From Dusk Till Dawn.
Right.
Then I also have Tin Gun, which is another side project to...
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
To Republica, which is... it's myself, the good Peter Steer from Sign Star, stroke 10X, stroke playing guitar for me for EMT as well. I roped him in on that. And Mark Truman, also from Signstar, who's a fabulous keyboard programming genius.
Yeah.
We call him the Wizard. So between the three of us, it's mostly done over Dropbox, but we try and get together to do vocals and have lunches.
Right, yeah. And so in terms of releasing and touring with Tin Gun, is that something that happens frequently? Or
we haven't gigged yet. We're on our third or fourth release, I think it is now. We've got an EP coming out with 5 tracks on it. At the end of the month, I can't actually remember the date. Peter, if you're listening, flick it up in the thing.
Please do.
But we are gigging next March. We're supporting Tiny Magnetic Pets at the Water Rats.
Oh, right, very nice.
And also in a venue in Hastings as well, I believe, the night after. So that's towards the end of March next year. So that's going to be our first foray into the live department.
Cool.
And we're going to have a drummer for that as well. Nick Hodges is going to join us on drums.
Excellent.
From Psychoelectric. So
superb.
Yes, it was a sort of super group.
Yeah. So it seems like you've always been busy. From day one, really. You've always had something kind of on, I guess, and maybe
I just love it.
Yeah, which is good.
Every day's a learning day.
Absolutely.
I love the software side of it. I love I've still got masses of outboard here.
Look at that.
Loads of it.
Very nice. We're going to ask you about that in a bit. I'm hoping the guys have got some questions with regards to your current setup there. I just want to say I went on the Tin Gun Facebook page Friday, the 26th of November is the release date for the EP called Reanimation. So there it is. Of course, you can find them Tin Gun Official on Facebook. Just Google them, and they've got a lovely picture of you on here. Let me see if I can share this. I think Peter must be sitting down with a glass of something. Where is it? There we go. Show this on. He's got us on the big screen, and there you are in all your glory, just ready to go. Excellent stuff. Those designed by there's great design there. I wonder who did that.
Simon Hewitt.
So what's it with the badges? I've got to ask you about badges. Apparently.
Badges? Oh no, it's just that T-shirt.
Oh, it's just the T-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's nothing. I'm not Brian May or anything like that.
Right. Well, do you know it's funny because I don't know. I've taken it off now. I think we weren't. I think so Ben wasn't quite sure whether he should use that or maybe he should superimpose. He photoshopped Republica across your badger. I said, no, people know who Tim is. We don't need to. So yeah, we went with the badger instead.
That was just a Daily Mash T-shirt I particularly liked one day.
Right.
I think as we get more conceited, we should just have Ben paste ProSynth Network on everybody's shirt.
Yeah. And
make out. Today's one's quite good.
Yeah, Lord forgive me for my synths.
Oh.
Very good. I think you two, Chris, Ben, you let us down in the T-shirt department. Come on.
I know. I was going to get a ProSynth Network T-shirt, but
you're always in your 3-piece. You always look very smart. It's like you've just come back from court.
I just came back from hell. Yeah.
Guys, I hope you've got some questions there. But wasn't there one from Andy about the Tysco thing?
Oh yeah, there was. Chris knows it, don't you?
Yeah.
Over to you,
so
Chris.
The question was, why does he love Tysco synths? And it says, I owned a 60F and it was fab. I wish I still had it, so I think I understand.
Yeah, they're just. I love the filter in them. They are juicy, squelchy, but very musical. The resonance on them is very. They remind me of the sort of SH09 type thing, but they're 20 dB. They've just got a lovely creamy filter, and they're just a nice balance, sort of top to bottom in the sound of it. They're not too bright. They're not too bassy. They're very manipulable, shall we say? But each one's got some strange quirks. They really do. The especially the 110. It's got some very crazy.
So, come on, what have you got? What Tyscos have you? You did give us a flash over.
I've got the S60F up there.
Yep.
I've got the S110. Sorry, the 110F, which is the 2-oscillator monosynth.
Right. Nice. Yep.
And then over here I've got the SX400, which is a 4-oscillator polysynth.
Nice.
So that's like a Jupiter 4 type architecture.
Right, yeah.
So you can have it quad, you can have it duo, and you can have it monophonic with like a solo and unisons and all that sort of thing, and you can detune each oscillator. It's bonkers. But it can sound really soft and sweet at the same time. But it's got a real growl to it, and it's got the most crazy ensemble button on it.
Yeah. What's that on top of it?
That's an Ian MM Spectrum.
Oh.
Which was a 1980s kit synth. It's all Curtis based.
Right.
And sounds very lovely. It has a crazy LFO in it that has this. The more you turn up the frequency of the LFO, it changes a step pattern in it.
Classic Kent.
Which one, Kent? Which one?
Yeah, which one? And then above that is a Nudo. Is that a Nudo Super 6?
That's a Super 6.
What are your thoughts on that?
I love it.
Yeah.
It's the synth I was waiting for. It was
really.
I'm apart from this, I don't have anything sequential.
Right.
In the arsenal, I've never really been a huge fan of sequential.
Okay.
But this I really love. It's got a real quality to the sound of it. It really it's got a resolution and depth to the sound. I think is amazing.
Yeah.
And it can go everything from growly, deep, dirty analog up to sort of twinkly, DXE FM type stuff.
Yeah. And I noticed that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, after you.
Was that a Micro Moog behind you?
It's a multi-moog.
Multi-moog.
Yeah, that's so multi, and then I've got a mini up the top there as well.
And what else have you got?
Space Echo.
Is there a Space Echo there as
well? Space Echo, yeah. I've got an MS-20 Mark 1 that used to belong to Ad-Into-X. There's an Oberheim Matrix 6, but that's going on Vimeo. That belongs to Mark Truman.
Right.
CS5.
Yes.
There's CS15.
Yes.
Very nice.
Virus TI. Waldorf Pulse, SH101. JX8P.
I would say, yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, I still love that thing. And then I've got a load of Eurorack over here as well.
So where's the DX7?
Don't start with me.
Bored. I'm gonna disconnect. Oh, look, the connection's broken. No. The only things that I can say that I've got something that Tim Dorney's got. You've got an ESI MIDI thing at the back there, which I've got. They're great, aren't they?
It's really handy. I love it.
Because it's like, hot swappable, and it automatically decides whether it's an input and an output, which I just think is fantastic. You can just plug it in and go.
I had a uniter, but it didn't start. It stopped working when I went to Catalina or something like that. So
I do like those ESIs, M8U or something. Yeah. Really good interface. And I see some IK Multimedia iLouds, which is great.
I did have them they were in we have an apartment in Spain where we go and do stuff.
Sure.
And I put them out there to sort of. I always thought I'd do some writing when I got out there, but I never did. So I brought them back, and now I've just got them plugged into the headphone socket on the Super 6 just for programming up.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Have we got anything from?
Well, while we're on gear, why don't you take us back to the '90s, and what would your rig have been like back then?
Well, the live rig was it was a Kurzweil K2000, two S3000 XLs. So one would load, one would play. They were connected to hard drives. So one would play, one would load. Connected to Yamaha 01V desks that would flip around as well with program changes. All run off an MPC 3000. I think I also had a JX10 at that time as well. And then after that I got moved up to I had a JV108 in a CS1X in there as well. I think.
Yeah, I remember the CS because I had a CS1X and I thought it was cool.
I love it.
Yeah,
I've still got it. It's sat over there in the corner.
Thank you. Everyone's got. It was shitty, but it was shitty in a nice way.
It's got some great some of the electric guitars and things like that in it. Yes, the sitar are eminently usable.
Thank you. I I sold mine along with I went in for the whole 1X thing back in the day. So I had a CS1X, an RM1X. I had the SU10 little sampler that sat on the lip thing on the side there. I went all in with that whole thing, and then I sold pretty much all of that to try and pay for an Alesis electronic drum kit with the real head things on. And then my car failed its MOT to the tune of pretty much the amount of money that I'd made from the sale of all those synths. But thankfully, you see, I've got a CS6X, which is actually like a CS1X on steroids and actually a lot better. So I kind of feel, a little bit.
I'm tempted for one of them.
They are, do you know? And they're really good. There's so one of our members in the group, Keith McHard.
Yeah, he fixes. He's just fixed it, like, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he does these amazing what he calls rebrains. So it's basically he takes, you put it on the SD card, shove it in, and upload it, and it just kind of resets the whole machine to his sound. And they're really, really good.
Yeah, I've seen some of his demos of it. I was dead jealous.
Yeah, I was really. I've always thought about getting one, and I was very lucky. A friend of mine who knows that all he has to do is wave a decent synthesizer up under my nose, and I'm like sniffing around. He sold me that and the Z1, the Korg Z1, for a very nice price, and then he sold me an RX5, a QX3.
Wow.
CX5M, he's my dealer basically. Jonathan Redman, I love you, but stop selling me stuff.
Tony says I'm like that with plugins. I just wave them under Tony's nose and he goes and buys them.
That's it. I'm actually picking up, going back to Yamaha tomorrow. I'm picking up an O2R. I finally always wanted one, and I need a decent mixer, so I've got one. Incredibly good.
They're a bit crunchy.
Yeah, but apparently this is like showroom condition, and I know the person that's selling it very well. Well, I know his brother very well, so I'm fingers crossed it's going to be a nice little thing, and it's good to find somewhere to put it now because they're not small.
That's what the only mixers I've got a tiny little Behringer, the RX16.
Yes, I've got a few of those.
I've
got 3 around here.
Yeah, they're well handy.
Yeah,
just for rooting stuff about.
It's like 70-75 quid depending on where you get it from. You stick eight instruments in there, and then you just feed it all into something. They're brilliant little things. I have to say. Synth Addict in the chat says I have a CS1X and an AM1X. Yeah, that's the one I really do hanker after. Is the AM1X. Lovely, lovely stuff. Yes, Andrew, he does have my number. He literally phones me up and says, "I've got this synthesizer. Do you want it? It's a Yamaha. It's FM or something." And I'm like, "Go on then."
I don't know this guy. I need his number.
No, you don't, because I want first dibs on his stuff. Anyway, any more questions from the chat room, guys? Have you personally got anything you want to throw at Tim?
I did have a question.
Go on then.
It was just that I noticed I noticed 2 modernish pieces of gear. One was the Virus, and one's the Super 6. Have you got a preference towards the vintage gear, or is there nothing been out apart from the Super 6 that you like? What?
Yeah, I mean I quite like an OB6, but it's $2,500. So, and I don't think I want it that much. I mean, I've got other stuff like there's also DeepMind floating around here. There's a Kurzweil K2500 lurking over there. There's an MS2000B here as well. So I've got stuff I just haven't sold anything apart from the Synthy that I had.
Right.
And that was just because I needed the money and it just wasn't immediate enough for me. I know you should love Synthies, but I just used to hit a brick wall with the damn thing all the time. I just like try and get a decent sound out of it, and couldn't. I prefer stuff you can just get a tune out of rather than. That's why I'm sort of falling out of love with Eurorack.
Right.
Because I'll only use it these days if I've got the part already nailed down and I'm looking for a specific type of sound or something crazy. I won't use it to try and write with.
Sure. Kent's just asking, does Tim still have any gear at his place still? He's just checking. He's probably looking at what to throw away.
He does ring up occasionally. He rang me up earlier in the year. He said, "I've got your 303 here," and I'm like, No, you haven't. It must be another Tim. But I nearly ended up with 2 303s, thanks to Kent.
I'm sure he's still got your CS18.
Yeah.
I'd check up on that if I was you.
No, you haven't got any of them at the moment, Kent. You're good.
So speaking of writing, you're just talking about your current habits and like Eurorack and stuff like that, but kind of going back, or even presently with Republica, it always kind of interests me. So when you guys really hit in the mid '90s, I was thoroughly ensconced in the rock and metal and blues world, and all of a sudden I heard this stuff that was really cool, and it had a lot of electronic sounds in it. I didn't realize there had been 2 mixes for was it Ready to Go that had the 2 mixes?
Yeah,
it had a European more like electronic, and then the American version had more guitars. Yeah. How did you guys go about that, and why did you do that?
Well, we were taken up by RCA in the States, because Deacon's just a sort of little dance label really in the UK, but RCA was sort of the big behemoth. And our A&R guy there suggested that, look, I'd like to get some mixes done for the States. That we've got these guys who are more sort of in the like Ben Gross, who worked with Filter and a lot of the sort of metal, the metaler end of the spectrum, shall we say? They're more industrial, really.
Yeah.
And so they sent him Ready to Go. He did that mix of Ready to Go without us. But then once we'd done that, they flew us out to Detroit for a couple of weeks, and we did 4 more tracks off the album again with him, working with him to remix them. Oh, excuse me, got a bit of a dry throat. But yeah, that was how that, and we sort of just carried on down that route. That was what sort of led us to be more of a band than a synth-based thing.
And when you guys, started working together, and back in the early days, and on even past then, writing songs, something that again really impressed me. I talked about at the end of the show that you guys wrote music, melodies, chord progressions that were just extraordinarily catchy. I mean, they just stay with you. And what was that process like for particularly you and Johnny writing that stuff?
We've pretty much always been complete pop tarts. We grow up loving pop music, and we still love a classic chord progression, a classic pop arrangement. We're suckers for it, but at the same time we also grow up loving The Cure and Prefab Sprout and things like that. So we've had a lot of sort of influences come into the way we work, really. It normally starts with Johnny will have something on the guitar, or I'll bash something out on a piano sound or a pad, and we just layer it up from there. We throw a lot of things at it, and a lot of things go by the wayside, but some things stick eventually.
One question from the chat room from Paul Artola is, what DAW plugins are rocking your world, if any?
Unfortunately, I've become addicted to acoustic plugins recently, which is a very expensive habit, and will suck up all your CPU power in no time flat. I use Logic for all the mixing and writing, but I use Reaper for mastering, because Logic's threading, the way it handles the stacking of the plugins, you can get a lot more lined up in Reaper. Right. Whereas in Logic, it tends to crap out. Like, it'll crap out one core of your CPU and throw the whole thing over, whereas Reaper distributes them across the cores.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, especially if you're mastering, it's a pain in the butt. Like, I like to have a lot of plugins just in my mastering profile, just to click in and out, that do different things.
Yeah.
But you can't do that in Logic.
No. You said you kind of learnt master, or taught yourself mastering over lockdown.
Well, I've got a good friend of mine I've known for many years, a guy called Streaky, who has done a lot of mastering for me over the years. But I hung out. We finished a Republica album about 18 months ago, and I went to master it with him, and basically just picked up all the tricks. But I knew it turns out I knew a lot of them anyway already. But he was most helpful.
He's really good, isn't he?
He's great, Streaky. He's been doing it. I told him not to do it years ago. He said, "Oh, I'm going to get a job at Battery Studios." And he was like 18, 19 at the time. I was like, "Mate, you'll just be making tea for the rest of your life." And he did. He went there as a tape op, but then he sort of moved into the mastering side, and then went to Sound Masters, and then Metropolis, and now Streaky Mastering.
Lovely stuff. Any other questions from you guys?
Yeah, well, going back to the computer side of things, how do you tend to work? Because, like, what me personally, I like the immediacy of software. I'm really getting into that, where you can just sit there and load something up and it's there straight away. And you got instant recall. But if I'm going to do a finished product, I'd like to replace all those with hardware, you know, like, so it's got like real tone to it. I was just wondering are you mainly hardware with a bit of software or not?
No, I'm exactly pretty much what you say. I find it much quicker to write just like a keyboard and a computer, boom.
Yeah.
Much quicker. I've got sort of pads here, I've got other bits and bobs to get information in, but no, I find it much quicker to write with the computer, because you just like piano, boom, straight up. Not patching, not doing. But then once you're looking to get a finished product, the bass will end up on the Mini Moog, or the pads will go over to the SX or things like that. I'll replace them later on with other stuff that, if I think it's better out of the hardware. I mean, if it's not, it stays on the software. It's quite simple.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about the end product, it's not about the source it's coming from. No one's interested if it was you used a Mini Moog on the bass. That's not going to make them buy your record.
Exactly.
What sounds best, isn't it?
Yeah, horses for courses.
I was checking out Tin Gun and some of the other projects that you worked on, and I can't remember. I think it was the Tin Gun stuff that had a bunch of remixes, or maybe it was a New Republica. I don't know. I sing the Body Electric ass in the chat, and I think this is a great question. Naivety-driven question: are remixes done at behest of record companies, whether the original artist wants them or not? Like, well, what is that process like for remixes? Who decides how that gets done, or who does the remixes?
Well, these days, I mean, it's very much Tin Gun's very much a cottage industry. We're the record label. We stick it out through Bandcamp and AOL, who handle the digital distribution of it. So we just get remixes done because we like our mates to do different versions of them, and we like to give people more to listen to. But no, historically in the past, I mean, you could with say Ready to Go and things like that around the world, each territory would get their local remixer to do it. You didn't really have a lot of say in it. Some of them were crap, some of them were good, but you didn't really have a lot of say in who did them. You could try and get, like, we had the Chemical Brothers actually do one of our first single, I think it was. Yeah, but they were the Dust Brothers at the time. yeah. Before then, but that when it was sort of in the UK, that was great to get people like that. Justin Robertson did mixes for us.
Did Andy do any stuff for you?
No, Andy didn't do any Republica stuff. We sort of lost contact with Andy really after a while. He went very techno.
yeah, very true.
Some of the Sabres stuff was like very not my cup of tea.
No, because the whole remix thing kind of blew up. I mean, obviously, in the late 70s, early 80s, it was all about just extended version for clubs. You know, so it was just like, you know, can we double the length of this to keep people on the dance floor? Then it became more of a creative thing, and it did seem to be a point where it was a marketing thing, pure and simple. It's just like, let's get the band remixed by a person or a band from maybe slightly outside of their audience zone to bring those kind of people in. Always did it feel like that to you sometimes?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would like they'd pay nothing for the single, but then they'd pay the remix of 20,000 quid. Wow. So it was very much about just getting having the hit. It wasn't about pushing the band forward at all. It was about having the hit with the track. They were much happier to spend 20. They wouldn't spend 20 grand on flipping tour support for the band, but they pay a remixer to go and do it in 2 hours.
But did it kind of, was it hurtful sometimes if a remix did better than the original? Because there are some songs out there where, for example, I heard a remix of a Placebo track by Le Rhythm Digital, who is that Stuart Price?
Stuart Price, yeah.
Yeah. So he did that really, really cool. I think it was on one of the FIFA soundtracks back in the day, and I thought, wow, this sounds really good. And then I heard Placebo's original, and it was like, oh no, this doesn't sound quite as good. I prefer the remix. I've since seen the light of day, and Placebo are just effing awesome. But sometimes the remix did better than the real deal. And did that kind of hurt?
I don't think it hurt the artists in the long run, but
No.
I mean, we were the band that said yes, go ahead and do these things to us. We like a lot of people around that time. There was a lot of arrogance, especially around dance music. That I'm not letting them do my stuff. They can't do this. They can't do that. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to go and play there. We're just like, you want us to come and play? Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah. You want to remix it? Go ahead and do it. We don't mind. At the end of the day, if it's helping our career along, we didn't care. So
yeah,
I think with Ready to Go in particular, anyway, it was like the remix process in reverse almost, because I understand a remix to be like you maybe have a band that's performed something, and then all these instruments are replaced but with electronics to make an impact on the dance floor. But am I right in thinking, from what you said earlier, that the remix created the band sound?
Pretty much, yeah. It was done in reverse. I mean, the guy who actually played the guitar on that version is a guy who plays guitar for Was Not Was at the time, I think.
Oh wow!
Right, yeah.
And he just Randy, his name was, and he just came in and like that he just played it one time, and Ben managed to catch it in Pro Tools. and he couldn't play it. I've heard all the takes of it, and it's just this one little snippet of that groove that Ben caught, and just like that made all the difference. So and from there, I mean, once we decided to go along with it and went out to Detroit and work with him, that was where the best work was done, because it was a meeting of his rock world and our dance sensibilities of the time. So that was where it worked.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Fascinating stuff.
I remember hearing it for the first time, and it was like one of them, like, whoa, this somebody's really like nailed something here. It's dead good. This, and then like the tune was great, and like Robbie alluded to earlier, that Saffron was pretty appealing as well.
She didn't harm it.
But yeah, I mean, that aside, she's got a great voice.
Oh yeah,
proper
that's what
in your face. Back in the 90s, that whole, and I hope she's not watching. She'll probably crucify. But that whole kind of ladette image, that kind of that feisty, in your face, girl power thing. It really worked really well, and it just come over, didn't it?
Well, we did a gig years later, and Saffron was there, and she ended up getting on stage with us and singing with us, and she could sing, like, she's...
Was that Pete's wedding?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I couldn't make that, unfortunately.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Small world.
She was great, I was awful, but yeah.
I heard you were very good then.
Well, I had to go off like witness accounts, really. I couldn't remember much.
One last question before we just kind of wrap up with you, and then just sort of cover the last few news things. There was where is it? I've lost it now. Where'd it go? Here we go. Synth Addict. What does Tim think is the best and worst synth, and what synth has he sold that he would love to get back?
I'd love to have the Synthie again, but I don't really want it. No. Yeah. My Oscar, actually, I'd like that back.
Oh right, yeah.
That had to go at a time when I had no money, and my computer was dying on me and that sort of thing. So the Oscar it wasn't getting used as much as it could have done, but I do regret selling that. Mm-hmm. The worst thing, we had loads of them back in the night. The one I really hate is the Quasi MIDI Sirius.
Oh right.
And the Technox. The Technox was just hideous. It's just an awful box of sounds that just like rave horns and squawks and organs and.
The Quasar was similar, yeah.
Yeah, the Sirius, because that had a vocoder in it as well. It was absolutely diabolical. What else? Red Sound, Dark Stars. They're dreadful. Yeah. Here you go, an FM one for you, Robbie. An Evolution EVS one.
Oh, well, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Thank you for not saying the DX7 and just joining the crowd, you know.
Well, I have admitted to owning a DX9 in my history.
Well, there you go, yeah. So you're good in my book.
Actually, Republica had a DX7 for a while as well.
There you go, see. All the good ones do. All the good ones do. Anything else from you guys before we head back into the final news topics? Are we all good? Fine, yeah. Good stuff. Excellent. Well, look, that was fantastic. Really fascinating stuff to hear. Brilliant. Let's just tie up some of these little news stories here because we've all kind of put some time into research. The first one I'm going to do is this one here. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to play the YouTube video for this one because the sounds and the playing are so good that I think we will get a copyright strike.
I know which one this is. Yeah.
You know which one this is. So this is our friend Jim Daneker. Jim plays out with Michael Smith out in the US, and he's currently touring at the moment, back out on the road, using a KX88 no less as his control. He's bought 2 or 3 of them and restored them. He loves them so much. But his thing outside of that is BackStage Pass, which is a plug-in. I guess you can call it a plug-in for MainStage, and it's basically an environment that he puts a whole bunch of samples in. So he did DX Dreams, which of course we all kind of loved here, and this is his new one, 8591. Those 2 numbers relate to the era that all of these kind of digital pianos were used in. So you've got things like MKSs and other kind of electric pianos in there as well. Nearly 40 gigabytes of data in here, and it sounds incredible. It has this really nice, very simple to use interface that obviously works in MainStage, but also works in Logic as well. It's a really useful instrument. I mean, I listen to this, I say, I want to play the video he did, but it is so close to the originals that I know that we'll get a copyright strike, and I don't want to do that. But if you can go to, I'll bring up the screen. It's on Jim Daneker's site here. Let's just, he's going to go. Let me just bring this up. I was going to say, go and get a drink of water. Where is it? Strymon? No, not Strymon. Model 8591. Here we go. Right. So if you want to hear this, go to Jim Daneker. Basically, that's it. Jim Daneker's YouTube. Let's see if we can. I don't know how much we can get away with here in terms of audio. Maybe this one we'd be okay with. All of that is Jim's instrument. It's stunning. Some of the pianos in there are absolutely brilliant. Did you guys get a chance to play around with this at all, or have a listen to the demos? And what do you think?
I had to listen to the demos. I haven't got the actual thing. I still haven't got around to installing the DX one.
Don't say that.
What? Oh no, yeah, it's just me. It's just. But every time I use MainStage, I'm away from the house and I haven't got the stuff with me to. So. I have heard it though, and it is fantastic. And this is again, he's done an exceptional job here.
Yeah,
it just sounds brilliant, and he's just so talented. He's playing, it's just incredible.
Yeah. It's not just the sounds though, is it? It's the interface is really good. Yeah. Tim, do you ever use MainStage for live work?
Yeah, I use it for live all the time.
Oh, there you go. Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, again, it's the same sort of thing as the Rhodes for me. I just didn't like the sounds on it. I don't like the sort of it's like a piano pastiche.
Yes,
and especially the way he plays a lot of those demos. They're all tracks you recognise.
Yeah.
They're just not the sort of music that I'd play.
Yeah. Well, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's horses for courses at the end of the day. What do you think, Cryss?
Yeah, Jim does great stuff. I think one of the key things is he has a really good ear and good taste.
Yeah.
So with his different packs, I mean, he's got the Prophet one, the DX, his piano, and for whatever style you're looking for, like how he's processed all the sounds is really good. And I'm not one that wants to go load up a bunch of samples on my computer, but for his stuff, I will.
Yeah.
And unlike Ben, I've actually used DX Dreams quite a bit and have recorded with it. stuff on my channels features it, and it is fantastic. So I don't expect that this would be indifferent. There are a lot of classic songs.
Yeah.
So
I think, as Tim says, it's one of those things that if this is what you want, it's bang on the money. If it's not, then you go and try something else.
I think it would be like the MDs in, like live performance, like shows and things like that, that'll really get the most out of this. And it's not really... Essentially,
that's who it's designed for. The fact it's designed for primarily for main stage. It's for people that just want those classic sounds, boom, straight away. No messing. And
just to let people know, in case they haven't seen this, you can also use it in Logic. And I don't know if I've ever used it in main stage, although the interface looks great when I watch it on the videos.
Yeah.
But since I don't play keyboards live, it's always guitars, I use it in Logic for recording, and that's how I'm accessing all that stuff, and it's really good.
Yeah. It's a really nicely designed interface. Big thanks to Wagyu. DX horns are blowing loudly. You can't hear them, but they are. Thank you for your donation there. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. We need to sync you up now, don't we? So some people have been referring to ABBA there with the piano sounds. I just want to say ABBA's new album is brilliant. It really, it's perfect. They've not pandered to any kind of modern thing. It's so ABBA. It could have come out in 83, 84 after the last one. But it's good to have those. It's a great album.
Because it doesn't everybody get disappointed when when they hear something that's like radically different, or
exactly.
Like we just had that conversation about Vangelis, and like he doesn't do the stuff with the old synthesizers that we love.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to hear it.
But I just wanted to put it out there because I've been excitedly waiting, and the vinyl was supposed to turn up today, and then I get a message like 11 o'clock this morning saying, due to a fire at one of the pressing plants that burnt the first batch of sleeves, my copy is a week or two away. But to their credit, they gave us all the download code. So I've been able to listen to that today, and hats off to them. They can afford it, let's be honest. But it really, really is. If you like ABBA, you'll love this album. And yes, I have got tickets to go and see the Avatar show next year, mainly because of the wife, But I am actually a little bit excited, if I'm honest to say. It's
mainly because of the wife.
No, seriously, no. She goes. My wife, and her best friend every year go to, what's the big ABBA tribute band? I can't remember what they're called in the UK.
Bjorn Again.
Bjorn Again, that's it. So they go and see them every Christmas. It's their kind of thing. And they do the whole dressing up stuff, and that's not for me. But I'll happily sit in an audience. I know there's going to be people dressed up, but I'm happily sitting in an audience and watching some kind of technological marvel. It's great music. Anyway, we digress. Excuse me, Backstage Pass.
Quite good, then.
Yeah, it will be, I'm sure. BackstagePass.store is the website address for Jim Daneker's new library for Backstage Pass, which is called 8591 Synthetic Piano. So it does exactly what it says on the tin. Let's very quickly talk about GForce software, because this is the first time that GForce have actually got an artist to come in and do a library of sounds for their M-Tron Pro plugin. And who better to ask than friend of the show, Alex Ball, has come in and he has recorded a whole bunch of sounds for the M-Tron, and they've done it the original way. So he's recorded his sounds, he sent them off to Streetly Electronics, who have then recorded them onto the EMI tape, which is apparently the same grade of tape they used back in the day.
They put it
onto the Skeletron. Then they
what a name!
Exactly, and then they sample the Skeletron both direct from the outputs and also from a speaker on some of the sounds as well. And then they stick it all into this library and stick it then into M-Tron Pro, which is probably the best Mellotron simulation you're likely to find. And up until I think it's the end of this month, it is a measly $24.99 for this library. And there is a brilliant video to go along with it, which is a typical Alex Ball quality. So it gives you a bit of the history, lots of demonstrations, video of Alex in the GForce studio playing, as you can just see there in that picture, the real deal. And yeah, it's just absolutely stunning. And Alex Ball, as I think has been said on pretty much every live stream, podcast, web, he just makes people sick because he's so bloody talented, and we love it. We love him for it. Yeah. But yeah, he is just insanely talented. So I'm really kind of made up for him to get this kind of opportunity. And it looks like GForce will probably do more of these, more artist expansions. So I have to say, Tim, are you a fan of the Mellotron?
Yes, I am. I'm a big fan of Dave Spears as well. He's a lovely
of course, yeah, yeah.
But no, I first met Dave because I had an Oscar, and when he was first writing the Oscar, I got in contact with him and said, "Are you looking for beta testers?" So that was before the first Imposca came out, just when they still used to do like the Fat Boy and things like that.
Yes, yeah. I've seen Fat Boy 001.
Yes.
Which is
that the silver one? Dave's got the silver one.
Yeah, it's at Dave's place. Yeah, it's a lovely little thing. Yeah. So, will you be?
No, I bought it already.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, me too.
I wasn't hanging about. No, it's really good. I really like these things. Like, sort of, I find them really inspirational. Little packages like this, things like this. Arcade. I love working with arcade, especially if I'm working with hip hop people, which I've done recently. Yeah. But and things like labs. I love the way that these little sort of quirky little, just little patches appear, like the guitars. The violins sound amazing on that bloody thing. Yeah. Alex has done a great job. Yeah,
and he's picked some really interesting instruments. You know,
some balalaika.
Balalaika. Yeah. There's a DX7 on there, for heaven's sake. But, you know, it's and a really
what sounds
collection.
Really great on Mellotron is baritone guitars. For some reason, baritone guitars sound just
the twang guitar, and it's excellent.
Yeah.
It's really
well,
good.
when GForce released Retron, which was their Reason Rack extension version of M-Tron, Dave sent it over to me to test out because I'm a big Reason user, and I said, "Can I do a demo?" And he said, "Yeah, go on, then go for it." And I just thought I'd do it, and it would just be like, "Yeah, thanks for that. We'll get back to you." But no, they put it on on the site and everything. It was really cool, and I called it. I think it was a tribute to Ennio Morricone because of that baritone twangy guitar, and it was all over that because it is almost probably my favourite patch in there. I love that, absolutely fantastic. Guys, Cryss, Ben, did you acquire this? Have a go with this? Thoughts?
I've not got the M-Tron because
why not?
Well, I wasn't really a Mellotron fan at all. It wasn't really my cup of tea, but as I'm getting
older,
more creative, I think.
Older,
older. Yeah, as I'm getting more creative, older, it's appealing to me more, and that sound is I can hear it like. When I'm looking for things, I'm thinking that it's like almost like a Mellotron kind of thing. So I am going to get it. And I think that Alex has done an absolutely fantastic job of this. And I'm going to definitely get that because what he's produced, those demos that's in that video are just incredible. They sound great. Yeah. And that is totally him. He's even made the sounds. He's made the tune.
The drum things in it sound great.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's done the complete rhythm patches as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah. He is sickeningly talented. I can't even say it. He's that good.
Yeah,
well, that's some of the fun of his little videos. Is like, what kind of song will he come up with? And then he's not just doing synth, but he's doing guitar and the bass and drums and everything else. And
you get a lot of people who are really talented like that. But it always, I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but it's always like a little bit like jazzy and like a little bit cringy. Some of it. His stuff's always cool sounding.
The great thing about Alex Ball is that not only is he really gifted as a musician, but also as a writer, and he has a personality and a character and a presentation. He literally ticks every single chuffing box, and I hate him because I want some of that, all of it. I want all of it. So he is brilliant, and we hopefully, because he's been on the show. Of course, his alter ego has been on the show as well. We'll hopefully get them back soon, so we can really.
Well, he's such a giving person because I think the greatest thing about this is that it just gives one more opportunity for keyboardists to pretend that they're guitar players.
Yeah, that's why I'm getting it.
Yeah, because that's what we all want to do, isn't it? No, yeah. I jest. But yeah, there you go. Alex Ball, Artist Expansion for M-Tron Pro. It's a mere $24.99. Of course, you will need M-Tron Pro to use that, but it's well worth it. And they've got some great deals on the rest of the libraries as well at the moment. So do go over to GForceSoftware.com and get that. Tell them we sent you. What else have we got? So we talked about quirky sort of sounds. This one was an interesting one that I'm still not 100% sure about. And this is the new thing from SoundPaint. It was called SoundPaint from 8DO, who you might remember a little while ago provided a whole bunch of sounds for... Was it the Prophet X?
Prophet
X, yeah. Prophet X, I think. So this is... help if I was on the right part of the page. Here we go. So, Make Music Faster. They have predominantly done libraries that are used in Contact. Now, a bit like Spitfire, they're going over to their own sample playback engine, and it seems like a very, very comprehensive engine. Still quite haven't got my head around it, but the engine itself is completely free, and so is the 1928 Steinway piano. Everything else you have to buy, and they're pretty reasonable prices. You can buy everything for about $300. But if you just want, so yeah, the complete SoundPaint collection, $360, and then Hybrid Emotions is $50. There's an 808 package in there for $30, a Juniper 8, which is $80, and so on and so forth. Lots of stuff in there.
And they also provide different levels. So, like with that Juniper 8. You can get a lower level that's I think about 18 gigs, and that's of samples, and that's about $30. Or you can get 80, I think it was 84.4 gigs for $80 just of the Jupiter style one.
They've got loads of kind of modeled effects and things going on in this engine, but apparently the thing about this that makes it kind of stand out is it renders all the instruments dynamically in real time. Which apparently gives you a truly kind of realistic feel, and so on and so forth. I have to say that I played with the piano, and as lovely as it is, I had to kind of look for the standard piano sound, because everything was affected, in some way. There was arpeggiated versions, there was stuff with loads of effects on, and call me old-fashioned, but when I get a piano library, I want to play the piano first, and then I'll see what... Yeah, but give me the piano. It's felt a little bit...
Yeah, every
clunky.
program needs to have, every software like this needs to have an initialized patch. And I felt the same way. I was looking to them like, let me just hear the standard thing first. And that was so I actually ended up taking one of the patches and kind of stripping stuff out of it until I got the bare bones of it. And what the rendering in real time is to do with the velocity level. So it's really deeply sampled, a lot of velocity layers, round robins, and everything. And then what this program is doing, because I was like, well, why are these things so huge in their file size if it's doing some of this live? And what it is actually it's taking those velocity layers and however many samples they have for that. And when you hit a velocity that's between the layers, it I don't know if the correct word would be interpolates, or it figures out what it should be, even if there's a sample not there for that. So it figures out and creates the sound and models that, so that as you play the piano, you're not feeling the velocity layer so much. It's just a really natural experience.
Yeah. I have to say, I am happy, and I don't mean this nastily, although I have no connections at all with Native Instruments, but I do like the fact that more companies seem to be moving to their own platform that isn't an expensive thing to buy first before you buy all these other libraries. UVI have done it, Spitfire have done it, SoundPaint or 8DO have done it now with SoundPaint, and I'm sure there's some others. I like that. The only thing it means is that there isn't a consistent kind of interface across all of them, which is the beauty of Contact, I suppose, if you want to stay in that world. But I like that. Tim, did you get a chance to play around with this? Have you got any thoughts?
I didn't. I downloaded it, but I didn't actually get around to playing with it.
So okay, let's move on to Ben.
I downloaded it, but I've not used it. No.
There you go. Usual.
I have downloaded it, and I have used it, and I've used it quite a lot, and I really like it. For me, it's great.
Sounds
the
like
piano sounds great, and I didn't get to the point though where I found a realistic piano. They were all affected, but I got so inspired by one that I found on my travels that I never went any further and made a track.
Oh, well,
and I really like the track, and it's all down to this. It's great. It's great. Yeah. It's free. It's got loads of effects in it. It's got loads of features. The only thing that I haven't got round to investigating is, can you put your own samples in it? Can you make your own instruments? Because this is a major bit of kit if you can.
I don't.
Not that I saw in there.
No, I don't remember seeing anything that suggested that.
That would be brilliant. Or maybe if they did a pro version where you paid something, and then you could make your own stuff on it. Because some of the features in there are brilliant. And if
maybe that's something. Yeah.
Release your own stuff.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, if it's like Spitfire, would Spitfire turn around and say, here's our player with that stuff, and you can go and create your own stuff, or not? I don't know.
You can in Contact though, can't you?
You can in Contact, and again, that's the benefit, I suppose.
Yeah, so if they did do like a level up for developers or whatever, then I think that would be a cracking move. I really like it. I think it's great. It's the only problem that I had with it was when I reloaded this song that I created. The playback the first time was stuttering, and you've got to be online to use it. So I don't know whether it's doing something backwards and forwards with the servers. And once you played it through, so what I've started doing now is when I load this song up, I just mess about on the piano first before I play it, so it doesn't ruin the effect.
Yeah. Apparently, Ben from Musings, welcome Ben, good to have you back again, says no sample import yet, but apparently coming early next year, because apparently their mapping tool is still a bit rough and not ready for the public yet. So there is something.
It's going to be awesome when that gets
One thing I hope they will change or add about it is, like, as you guys experience, so many of the presets are, here's a acoustic piano, but we've really affected it and given it reverb and delays and everything. And but the thing is, like, the reverb is very short. It only goes to a 5-second decay. So for something that is being set up for very ambient piano sounds, I think they probably ought to give it a lot longer reverb for that. But I mean, you can always go grab some other reverb to use with it.
Indeed, which could sort of bring us on to our. I'm going to have to make this our final topic because we're kind of running out of time. And this is the new thing from Strymon, the Strymon Starlab. Let's just play a little bit of a demo on here. Here we go. So this is a time-warped reverberator, but it's in Eurorack form.
Hey, this is Pete from Strymon. I'm here with our new Starlab time-warped reverberator Eurorack module. Starlab is a very full-featured module that's
I did want to kind of get this in because we've got Tim here who is a Eurorack user, and I just wondered what your thoughts were on this particular unit. Is there something you're going to add to your rack anytime soon?
No, okay. But I will be adding, because there's a pedal version of it as well.
Has it? Yeah, I wasn't sure they'd released one.
Well, there is one. Yeah, there was on the Strymon website. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is a little bit different. This does a little bit more.
I know this has all the CV inputs and all that sort of thing to modulate it, but I mean, I actually sat through the entire video from that guy, and it's very long. It does go on for a long time, and it does some amazing stuff, but I think the pedal would be far more useful for me and much more hands-on. I don't think... Also, I'm just like... getting signal in and out of Eurorack's a nuisance and keeping quality. So I'm seriously tempted for the pedal though after having seen that.
They do some really stuff.
It's got a real tone to it. It's got a real lushness to it that I really like. It, as I said, it's better than the Eventide. I'm not a huge fan of like the Deep Space or whatever it's called. I can't remember now.
If you haven't checked it out, Tim, they have a Eurorack module called the AA.1, and it is module which adjusts levels. So if you have a bunch of effects pedals that you have sitting around and you want to buy even more expensive ones for Eurorack, it'll take your Eurorack signals and automatically drop them 18 decibels. You can run them pedals in an effects loop and back into your Eurorack, or say run instrument level signals into Eurorack for processing.
Yeah, I've got Belfaco, whatever they're called, the ins and outs for those. But I'll get a pedal, it'll be easier. Just plug a synth into it and away we go.
Yeah. Will you be adding this to your rack then, Cryss? Because you're a big fan.
Yeah, I love it, but it's $649, so methinks not.
Fair enough.
I think the pedal,
but it sounds good.
About £445, I think it is over here for the pedal one.
Oh, ouch!
Yeah, they're still quite pricey things though, but the quality is clearly there. Ben.
Yeah, this.
No, go on, Cryss.
Oh, no, I was going to add, this also does some other things, but just besides reverb and delay. It will do like Carplus strong synthesis.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, well, I don't have any modular. I've still got the rack, the tip-top rack thing that I've never put anything in.
So you must be the only person in the world who's bought a Eurorack case and not actually filled it with anything.
I've not put anything in it.
That's crazy.
There's nothing in it at all.
I just thought that it was one of those things that you bought a case and you just instantly had to put stuff into it.
Well, yeah, I was going to make a drum machine, wasn't I? That was going to be
that's it, yeah.
But like it was really just the DFAM. That's all it was. I was just making that myself.
Oh.
But it sounds awesome. It sounds brilliant, but I've got no use for it. But I love the idea of having that extra control over the effects with the modular, sequences, and it is really good. I think it's very, very expensive. But it's a cracking bit of kit.
So I have to ask, is buying a Eurorack case and not putting anything in it the equivalent of you downloading the software but not actually installing it?
Yeah. That's
I can see a pattern evolving here.
That's me branching into modular.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. Anyway, there you go. Strymon Starlab, $650 or $649 to be accurate. It's not cheap, but it does sound amazing. The other thing that we're going to just kind of skip through here because we're going over time, and I'm conscious that Tim was rather dry-throated.
All right.
We can just save it till next week then.
It's all right.
Shall we say?
I got the wife to bring me some libation.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. All right, we'll save that one till next week.
So you at least owe me that after our digital analog tape scuffle. we got half an hour of Rossum digital sampling and nothing for tape effects.
It's not like we haven't got enough tape effects in a while, but yeah, we'll talk about the Neold Warble next week. Stay tuned for that one, and other news items, of course. So. Listen, there was Inky's got a question, hasn't she?
Asked a question, and I promised I would ask it.
Go on then.
She would like to know what is Tim's favourite dance track that isn't Republica, like by another person.
Ooh, big intake of breath there.
Ooh, Left Field, Not Forgotten.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
Good shout, yeah.
Heard a bit of Left Field on the radio this morning. I thought, I haven't heard that in ages. Yeah, really good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go, Inky. Hope that has kept you happy. If, of course, you want to ask our guests any questions, of course, you can do so in the chat, where we will try to get to them. But, of course, you can also stick your questions on the Facebook page underneath the show where we put the show up. Just stick them in there, and then that way we can refer back to them, because the thing is with the chat, once it kind of whizzes past a certain place, it's gone, and then people go, oh, you didn't ask my question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're just not fast enough to keep up. But there we go, loads of stuff. Tim, listen, mate, thank you ever so much. It's been it's been a real joy to to listen and to actually hear about this band and this album that kind of was really big in a lot of people's lives, and something that is great to see that you're still doing. So
it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm just sorry I couldn't get the sound card working. It would be nice to hear a few of these things.
Well, you know what it means. It means you're going to have to come back on again.
Okie dokie.
So we'll do that. Once you figure it out, then we'll get you back on at some point next year. That'd be fantastic.
I'll come on with Kent at the same time. We'll play.
Yeah. Absolutely. Maybe bring Saffron with you. For all the dads in the room. Yeah. That was great. Listen, thank you ever so much. Loads of love in the room for Republica and EMT and Tingun. Really good to have you in, and hopefully come back again soon. Fantastic. So what have we got coming up? Well, next week I did put a little post up on Instagram today with all our coming up guests, and we have got some really good ones to kind of round the year off with. So next week, the author of this fantastic book, Synth Gems 1, Dr. Mike 8, is going to be on the show next week, and that promises to be a really, really good show because Mike really knows his stuff and he loves to talk about it, which is fantastic. It ticks all of our boxes. So Mike 8, who is also in the chat room today, will be with us next week, and then I believe we've got this old fella on again. We've given him a few weeks off, actually. We've not had him on for a little while, so I suppose it's time we had him back. Kent Spong will be back on the show. I think it's the 19th. I can't get my dates right. Yeah, 19th. And then the following week, to round up November, we've got a double bubble for you, because originally it was just going to be Thomas from CME. CME, of course, the company behind Everybody Raise Your Glasses, Widdy. So Thomas is going to be coming on the show along with Jasper, and I'm not going to try and pronounce Jasper's surname because I do not want to offend him. But Jasper is he's a musical artist called Shook, S-H-O-O-K. Go and check Shook Music out on YouTube because he makes some really cool videos and he's got great chops as well. But he's also kind of an advocate for Widdy. It's not just me. There are plenty of others. Even Heimbach, I noticed today, took delivery of some Widdy units. So it's not just little old me, it's some of the famous people too. So these guys will be coming on, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we will have their very latest products, which is one of these items here, the Bud Pro, which is the little USB thing just there. We'll have all of those ready to kind of demonstrate live in the show. Kicking off the month of December, we've got Mr. Mark Zaffin. He's going to be joining us. And then after that, I can't remember if we said this last week, Lisa's coming back. She wants to come back. And how could we say no? So Lisa Belladonna will be kind of our last, I think, is actually our last in-person guest for 2021, I believe. Because then after that, we've got Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. We're doing something about those. I don't think there'll be live shows. There might be live premieres, but there won't be live shows. So Lisa Belladonna will be our most glamorous and final guest for 2021. But don't worry, because we're already working on 2022's guests, and we should have some really good people coming up next year for you as well. And of course, we might have the guys from Rhodes. We might be able to squeeze them in as well. So fingers crossed, we'll get Dan. And the other guy's name has completely jumped out of my head. But yes, Rhodes Music, and they'll be able to tell us all about the new Rhodes Mk.8. And I think, everyone, that is a show. Thank you to everyone in the chat room. All of you have been absolutely fantastic. Thank you for those who've left Super Chat donations. They're much appreciated. Next week, we will be back on the same time schedule in North America. So it will be 2 p.m. East Coast and 11 a.m. West Coast, so everything back to normal next week. But of course, if you want to avoid missing any of our shows, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, and then you'll be told when that goes on. And of course, please do hit the like on the video now. Do that now, because apparently that makes a difference. Our subscriber numbers as well are shooting up. Literally day after day. We're not just the odd one or two. We've got tens, if not hundreds, of new subscribers. So if you are new to the show, welcome, thank you. Please go and check us out on Facebook as well. Thank you again, Tim. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Chris. Come on, you got to do that as well, Ben. Chris, you got to give a flourish. No? Yeah, like that. No? Yeah. Completely let the side down. Anyway, all the best. Love to Solar over there in California. I hope she's doing well.
Thank you.
And you guys got anything planned coming up in the next week or so?
I've got Shine On not
Oh yeah, of
this
course,
weekend
Shine
coming.
On.
But,
And that's it. Butlins in Minehead.
Butlins in Minehead, yes.
Classic place, classic venue.
So going down the Saturday. Going down the Saturday and playing the Sunday afternoon. So
very nice. Very nice. Cryss, anything fun in your world for the next 7 days?
All the usual stuff.
All the usual stuff. Yeah. Ben, more gigs?
I've got a gig in Barnsley.
Barnsley?
Aye.
With Barnsley, with Barmy.
Yeah, we've got an announcement soon about a big gig that we're doing with
Wembley Stadium,
very famous electronic band from Sheffield.
No. Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely interested now. You've piqued my interest. Oh, that's excellent.
So
all the good electronic
vice versa.
Yeah. Def Leppard. No.
I almost wore my Def Leppard T-shirt today too. Dang.
Oh, you should have done. You should have done. But yeah, excellent stuff. Well, I'm going to pick up my O2R tomorrow, so I'm really looking forward to that. My wife said to me, "How big is it?" And I said, "Oh, it's sort of like, what? It's just a mixer." Like that, and then I looked it up, and it's like, so I'm going to be picking that up. And I bought these the other day off eBay because they were really cheap, so I've got to try them on my TG55, the cheesy sax instruments from my Yamaha. So got those to look forward to. But anyway, every one of you have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy it, whatever you're doing. If you're going to be watching fireworks this weekend in the UK, you don't do it in the US, do you? You don't celebrate. It's Thanksgiving for you, isn't it? And 4th of July. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so today is Guy Fawkes night or bonfire night, whatever you want to call it. So there's lots of fireworks going off. And if you're watching any of those in the UK this week, stay safe. Stay warm and stay safe. And we will see you same time, same place next week at 7 p.m. And everything back to the usual time in America. Once again, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Cryss. We will see you all next week. Take very good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Bye.